Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The MC is reborn inside of Young Justice. He is reborn as Rick Sanchez. What chaos will he create inside of DC? Will he be good? Or will he stay an anti-hero? Or worse, does he become evil?
Made by Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe and hype video. Become channel member for early access. This fanfic cannot be found elsewhere on the internet. Young Justice, reborn as Rick Sanchez. Chapter 1, A Portal Out of Place. I woke up face first on cold concrete. My cheek stuck to something sticky. Asphalt, oil, whatever. My body wasn't mine anymore. My hands were pale, thin, trembling slightly as I pushed myself up. A faint smell of burnt circuitry and ozone lingered around me. When I blinked, the world focused, and I realized I was staring at a reflection in a cracked window. Spiky blue hair. Drooping eyelids. A constant expression that screamed both genius and hangover. Rick Sanchez. Ah, geez, I muttered, my voice rasping with that unmistakable drawl. Guess I'm the one who just pulled the reincarnation short straw. Verb. Perfect. I patted myself down and felt weight gadgets. Dozens of them. Cold metal pressed against my lab coat. My fingers brushed over the portal gun, the grappling device, the temporal stabilizer, and a few others I didn't recognize at first glance. It was like muscle memory guided me. Every tool had its place. Every slot filled like it had always been there. I stood up, stretching my shoulders, feeling joints pop. The sky above me was dim, clouds heavy, and the sound of the city carried a different tone, cleaner, more structured, like there was order here. Too much order. Definitely not my Earth, I muttered. Too quiet. Verb. No people screaming, no Cronins running loose. Boring as hell. I pulled the portal gun from my belt and flipped it open. The green glow illuminated my face as I tinkered with the coordinates. The math in my head clicked on instinct: spatial folding equations, energy thresholds, dimensional constants. It was all natural. I didn't even have to think about it. The portal opened with a sharp buzz, a glowing oval humming in midair. All right. Let's see what kind of cosmic daycare I end up in this time, I said, stepping through. On the other side, I walked out into a large, sleek facility: metallic walls, high ceilings, structured lighting. The sound of voices reached my ears before I even looked around. I froze when I saw them. Batman, standing at the front with his usual brooding posture. Next to him Red Tornado, the quiet mechanical sentinel. Behind them stood the younger ones: Robin, Aqualad, Kid Flash, Superboy, and Miss Martian, who looked slightly unsure, like she still didn't belong. I knew this place. The Mountain. Young Justice headquarters. Around episode 2 of season 1, if I remembered correctly. Miss Martian had just joined the team. They didn't even fully trust her yet. Batman's voice cut across the room, low and sharp. Who are you? I ignored him. My eyes drifted across the room, taking in every detail, every face. The way Robin subtly shifted his stance. The way Superboy's fists clenched. Miss Martian's slight hesitation. Batman took a step closer. Identify yourself. Yeah, I said, waving my hand. Verb. Not interested in playing 20 questions with a guy who dresses like a flying rodent, alright? Got more important things too. Before I could finish, a green glow filled my vision. Miss Martian's telekinesis came fast. I didn't even blink. My hand moved automatically, pulling a small cube-shaped device from my coat. I pressed it, and a transparent blue barrier unfolded in front of me. The energy wave from her attack hit it, dispersed instantly, leaving a faint static shimmer. Hey, I said, lowering the device. None of that, sister. Verb. I just walked in. I'm not in the mood for a psychic migraine. Robin's eyes narrowed behind his mask. How'd you block that? Because I'm smarter than all of you combined, that's how, I replied, brushing past him without looking. My boots clanked lightly on the metal floor as I headed straight for the kitchen area. Kid Flash zipped in front of me, blocking the way, his usual energy in full swing. Whoa, whoa. You can't just walk in here and eat our food or whatever. Watch me, I said flatly, sidestepping him. I grabbed the nearest snack from the counter, looked like protein bars and some kind of juice. I popped it open, took a bite, then collapsed onto the couch. They all stared. Batman stood motionless, assessing me with that classic silence that screamed suspicion. Superboy's jaw tightened. You shouldn't be here. Neither should half of you, I said with a lazy grin. Verb. Teenagers with trauma playing superheroes. Adorable. I took another bite of the protein bar. So, young Justice, hey? Meaning I'm smack in the middle of season 1. Guess I missed the induction ceremony. What a tragedy. Miss Martian's brow furrowed. Season 1? What are you talking about? Nothing you'd understand, sweetheart, I said casually. Verb. Just running my own diagnostics. Multiversal coordinates, that kind of thing. Batman's tone dropped an octave. You know where you are. That's enough to make you dangerous. Everything about me is dangerous, big guy, I said, slouching back into the couch. Relax. If I wanted to vaporize the lot of you, you'd already be glowing dust particles on the wind. There was a tense silence. Even Red Tornado tilted his head, his sensors whirring faintly. Aqualad spoke next, calm but firm. If you mean no harm, then state your purpose here. You appeared through a dimensional rift unannounced. Purpose? I said with a chuckle. I don't need one. I go where I want. The portal just landed me here, probably because some cosmic constant likes to mess with me. Verb. I leaned back, closing my eyes for a moment. But hey, not the worst place to end up. Beats dying under a truck. Robin looked toward Batman. He's not from any database. Of course not, I muttered. Verb. You think my name's on your little watch list? I operate about 6 realities above your clearance level, kid. Batman's cape rustled slightly as he turned toward Red Tornado. Run a scan. The android's eyes flickered. Energy readings do not match any known metahuman or alien database. His technology surpasses current Earth standards by at least 2 centuries. Try 3, I said, smirking. Verb. Batman didn't respond. He was good at hiding surprise, but I could tell he was recalibrating his approach. Smart move. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees, watching them. These were the early days. The team still followed orders to the letter. They hadn't broken out yet, hadn't defied the League or faced real betrayal. This was the naive phase. And I was sitting right in the middle of it, eating a granola bar. So, what's next? I asked, swallowing. You gonna lock me up? Verb. Run some tests? Try to figure out what makes the new guy tick. Batman's eyes narrowed. If you pose no threat, you'll cooperate. Not happening, I said, standing. Verb. I don't do cooperation. I do results. I tossed the wrapper onto the counter. You want to know who I am? Fine. Name's Rick. Rick Sanchez. And before you ask, no, I'm not from this dimension, and yes, I know more about quantum physics than anyone you've ever met. Kid Flash leaned forward. Rick what? Rick Sanchez, I repeated, voice sharp. Verb. Try to keep up. Miss Martian frowned. You don't seem human. Flattery'll get you nowhere, I said, walking past her. I'm gonna need a workspace. Lab, tools, power source. Preferably something that doesn't explode if I sneeze near it. Batman's jaw tightened slightly. You're not setting up anything here. Relax, I said. Verb. I'm not planning to blow up your cave. Just need to recalibrate the portal gun before I end up teleporting into a sun or something. Robin exchanged a quick glance with Aqualad, silent communication passing between them. They were cautious, but they hadn't decided what to do yet. Superboy folded his arms. You could be lying. I could be, I said. Verb. But I'm not. You'll figure that out once I start fixing your security system in my sleep. Batman turned his head toward Red Tornado. Monitor him. I'll report to the League. Then he walked toward the Zeta tubes, Cape trailing behind him. As soon as he was gone, I smirked. Man, the guy really knows how to suck all the oxygen out of a room. Verb. Kid Flash pointed a finger at me. You just show up here, make fun of Batman, and act like you own the place. Pretty much, I said. Verb. You'll get used to it. I dropped onto the couch again, grabbed another protein bar, and started adjusting the settings on my portal gun. The team hovered nearby, still tense but less aggressive now that Batman was gone. Miss Martian floated a few inches closer, her tone curious. You really can travel between dimensions. Obviously, I said, not looking up. Verb. How else do you think I got here? Took a bus. She hesitated, then asked, can you go back? I paused for a brief moment before shrugging. Maybe. Verb. Depends if I want to. Kid Flash tilted his head. Why wouldn't you? Ever try being the smartest man in a stupid universe? Gets old, I said flatly. Verb. This one might at least keep me entertained. The room fell quiet for a moment. Only the soft hum of Red Tornado's sensors filled the air. I leaned back, flipping the portal gun open, watching its green energy pulse softly. My mind was already spinning through calculations, possibilities, timelines. I knew what was coming: the mole, the League of Shadows, Cadmus, the betrayals, the secrets. I could see every step ahead of them. I smiled faintly. Well, I muttered to myself, guess I'm in the Young Justice universe now. Episode 2. Verb. Might as well make it interesting. Chapter 2, Martian Field Trip. I had been in the mountain for a few days. I didn't ask permission to stay. I just took a corner storage room, dumped the crates out, and started setting up. Red Tornado didn't object, probably because he was still processing the logic of human behavior. The others weren't thrilled. Dude, Kid Flash said one morning, hands on his hips as he leaned against the door frame. You turned the air ducts into, like, glowing green spaghetti. Yeah, that's called a power conduit, I said, not looking up from my workbench. Verb. It's what happens when someone with a brain touches wiring. I twisted a valve on the generator I'd rigged out of their spare Zeta module. The lights in the room flickered for a second, then steadied. Congratulations, you now have the most advanced lab on this rock. You're welcome. He frowned. You didn't even ask Batman. I looked over my shoulder. If you need permission to think, you're already halfway to useless. He groaned and zipped off down the hall, muttering something about how Batman's gonna flip. I didn't care. The hum of machinery soothed me. The smell of ozone and metal home. I checked the readout on the portal generator I'd been modifying. Its stabilizers were synced with the dimensional matrix now. That meant I could open something bigger than a door. Miss Martian floated into the room, her voice soft. You're working very fast. Yeah, it's almost like I know what I'm doing, I said, adjusting a few knobs. Verb. You people spend weeks trying to fix a broken sensor. I built a cross-realm gate in 3 days. She landed gently beside the table, her curiosity obvious. A cross-realm gate. Portal, I said, tapping the device. Verb. It's a stabilized wormhole between 2 locations. You know, for when you want to visit your home planet without waiting 6 months for a rocket to crawl there. Her expression changed slightly, her voice quiet. Mars. I gave her a look. Yet. Verb. Where else would I connect it? You're from there, right? Thought I'd get a first-hand look. Never been to Mars in this reality. Probably a dump, but maybe worth the trip. Her hands clasped together. You want to visit my home? Don't get sentimental. Verb. It's scientific curiosity. I need planetary data, and you're the local. I could show you around, she said with a small smile. Exactly, I replied. You'll be my tour guide. Just keep your green friends from shooting me when we land. Aqualad entered the lab then, his calm voice filling the space. You are planning to open another portal. Planning, I said, smirking. Already did. I pointed to the glowing ring forming on the far wall. Its energy pulsed rhythmically, bright green, humming low. Stabilized to Mars's orbit. Coordinates calculated from your database. Verb. Should be safe enough for biological life. Robin walked in behind him, his tone cautious. You can't just go to Mars. Sure I can, I said. Verb. I've gone to worse places. Besides, Miss Martian's with me. If anyone gets offended, she'll do her cute telepathic smile thing and smooth it over. Superboy crossed his arms, glaring. You're not taking her anywhere. I raised an eyebrow. Relax, big guy. Verb. I'm not abducting her. We're taking a field trip. You can come if it'll stop you from pouting. He frowned but didn't respond. Miss Martian looked between us. It's okay. I'll be safe. Robin stepped closer to the portal, scanning it with his wrist computer. It's stable, he said after a moment. That's impossible. The energy output is minimal. Yeah, well, when you're a genius, impossible's just Tuesday, I said, pulling my gloves tighter. Verb. Everyone ready? Or are we going to waste another 20 minutes arguing about my credentials? Aqualad nodded slowly. If you are determined to go, we will accompany you. It would be irresponsible to allow an unapproved mission. Fine, I said. Verb. But I'm not waiting if you start fainting from the atmosphere. I didn't bring oxygen tanks. Miss Martian smiled nervously. We don't need them on Mars. You'll be fine as long as you stay near me. Good, I said, flicking the switch. The portal roared to life, light filling the room. Dust lifted from the floor. All right, Miss M, after you. She took a breath and floated through the portal first. I followed. The air changed instantly thin, dry, slightly metallic. The sky was a dull red. Wind moved across rocky plains, carrying a faint hum. We stood on a ridge overlooking a wide expanse of reddish terrain dotted with low structures in the distance. The temperature dropped fast, but my coat adjusted automatically. Thank you, Rick Tech. Miss Martian smiled faintly, her eyes scanning the horizon. This is my home, she said quietly. The city of Mars. I glanced around, unimpressed. Yeah, real fixer-upper, I said. Verb. Looks like a sandstorm and a junkyard had a baby. She frowned slightly. It's not like Earth. But it's beautiful to us. Sure, I said. Verb. Everyone's got a hometown they overate. The rest of the team stepped through one by one. Aqualad immediately looked around, assessing. Robin was already recording readings. Kid Flash whistled. Whoa! Actual Mars! This is crazy! Superboy kept his eyes on Miss Martian. You okay? Yes, she said softly. I didn't think I'd ever come back here this soon. I was already scanning the ground with a handheld analyzer. The readings came back full of radiation anomalies and mineral traces. Verb. Yep, Mars all right. Low oxygen, high iron, too much pride. Robin crouched beside me. How's this even possible? You didn't use any Zeta technology. Because Zeta technicians for amateurs, I said. Verb. This thing bends local space without tearing it. You'll figure it out in, 50 years. We moved down the slope toward the Martian city. It wasn't as large as I remembered from data, probably an outlying colony. Small domes shimmered under protective fields, and faint figures moved in the distance. When they saw us, several Martians paused, eyes glowing faintly. Miss Martian floated forward, speaking telepathically. It's all right. They're with me. The tension faded. A few approached cautiously. Their forms shifted subtly, skin tones ranging from green to white. One, older and taller, stepped closer. His expression changed when he saw her. Mgan, he said, voice deep and resonant. You have returned. Uncle Jayon, she said, eyes widening. Wait, I interrupted. Verb. The Martian Manhunter? You mean you're actually related? Great, small universe. He turned toward me. You are not of this world. No kidding, I said. Verb. Don't worry, I'm not here to invade. Just sightseeing. Your niece invited me. Jaeon's brow furrowed. Her return is unexpected. And your technology is unlike anything known. Yeah, that's kind of my thing, I said, crouching to adjust the scanner. Verb. Don't touch the portal, by the way. You'll destabilize the field, and then we'll all be atoms. Robin whispered to Kid Flash, he's serious, isn't he? Yeah, Kid Flash said quietly. He's serious. Miss Martian hugged her uncle quickly. I just wanted to show my friends where I'm from. You are welcome, Jaeon said, though his gaze remained on me. Aqualad bowed his head slightly. We mean no harm. Good, Jaeon said. But Mars is not safe for prolonged human exposure. You should not remain long. I straightened up. Verb. I can handle myself. My coat's shielded against radiation and cold. Kid Flash looked around, rubbing his arms. Still freezing, though? Yeah, because you're not smart enough to wear a temperature regulator, I said. Verb. Superboy glared at me again, but I ignored him. My scanner pinged. Interesting, I said. Your atmosphere's denser near the city domes. You're using some kind of magnetic compression field. Not bad. Jaeon's tone was even. It sustains our life here. Yeah, I figured, I said. Verb. Might want to recalibrate the field frequency. You're bleeding 30% of your output into the wind. Robin raised an eyebrow. How do you even know that? Because I'm Rick Sanchez, I said. Verb. Try to keep up. We followed Miss Martian through the outer perimeter, past shimmering energy walls. Martians watched us quietly. Their telepathic hum filled the air, a soft vibration in the back of my head. I didn't like it. Too many minds pressing at once. Hey, tell your people to quit the brain chatter, I said. Verb. I don't do telepathic parties. She nodded, focusing briefly. The noise dimmed. Sorry. They're just curious. Yeah, well, curiosity killed the cat, I said. Verb. Or the Martian, whatever applies here. We walked through narrow streets between dome structures. The city glowed faintly from embedded light panels. Technology here was functional, not flashy lots of crystal-based systems and telekinetic interfaces. Primitive but stable. Kid Flash looked impressed. This place is awesome. So different from Earth. Aqualad examined one of the control panels. Their energy network appears organic in design. I smirked. Because it is organic. Verb. Biocircuitry. Don't try to copy it, it'll eat your data chips. Robin looked around. No offense, but this doesn't look like it could support everyone. It doesn't, Miss Martian said softly. Many left for deeper colonies. The white Martians still struggle to find peace here. I checked my readings again. Verb. Yeah, I can see that. Energy pattern variations between the domes. Someone's not sharing resources evenly. Jaeon's tone was calm but firm. That is a sensitive matter. Yeah, well, it's obvious, I said. Verb. If you want equilibrium, reroute your grid. Problem solved. Superboy stepped closer, his tone low. You should show some respect. For what? I said, shrugging. Verb. Logic? I respect logic. The silence that followed was awkward. Miss Martian touched Superboy's arm gently. It's all right. He's just direct. We reached the central dome, where a massive structure stood. Inside, the temperature was warmer. Martian engineers moved quietly along translucent corridors. Robin's scanner beeped. This place runs on less power than my laptop. Efficiency, I said. Verb. Humans waste energy on neon lights and coffee makers. Miss Martian led us to a large viewport overlooking the red desert. From here, you can see the twin moons, she said softly. Kid Flash pressed his face to the glass. Wow! I adjusted the portal gun, running synchronization tests. Verb. All right, we've seen the sights, grabbed the postcards. Time to go before someone starts an interplanetary incident. Miss Martian looked around, her eyes soft. I wish I could stay longer. Yeah, nostalgia's great, I said. Verb. But you've got missions to run and teenage drama to manage. Jaeon placed a hand on her shoulder. You are welcome here anytime. She smiled. Thank you, Uncle. I activated the portal again. The air shimmered. The green vortex opened. All right, field trip's over, I said. Verb. Back to the daycare. The team stepped through one by one. Miss Martian followed last, glancing back once at the red horizon. I waited until she disappeared before stepping through myself. We came out back in the mountain. The lights adjusted automatically. Kid Flash dropped onto the couch. That was wild. Actual Mars. Aqualad nodded. We are fortunate it went peacefully. Superboy looked at Miss Martian. You okay? She smiled. Yes. Thank you. I powered down the portal gun, placing it back on my belt. Well, that's one cosmic field trip down. Verb. Next time, maybe I'll take you kids to Jupiter's core. Robin smirked. If Batman finds out, you'll be banned from every Zeta tube on Earth. Yeah, sure, I said, walking toward my lab. Verb. He can try. Chapter 3, Martian Tune-Up. Back at the mountain, the air felt heavier after the thin chill of Mars. The familiar hum of red tornado systems filled the halls, steady and calm. The others were still buzzing from the trip, trying to process the fact that they'd just walked on another planet. Kid Flash was talking fast, like usual. Okay, seriously, how did that just happen? We went to Mars. We were on Mars. How's that not the craziest day ever? Robin shrugged, but I could see the grin hiding under his mask. I'm still trying to figure out how that portal didn't blow a hole in the universe. Aqualad was calm, as always. It was risky, but we returned unharmed. That is fortunate. Superboy leaned against the wall with his arms crossed, quiet, his eyes flicking toward Miss Martian now and then. She floated a few inches off the floor, looking more relaxed than usual. Thanks for the tour, by the way, I said, adjusting the strap on my portal gun. Verb. Not every day I get a guided look at a planet without having to dodge space cops. Miss Martian smiled, her voice gentle. I'm just glad it went well. It was nice to see home again. Yeah, I said, waving my hand. Verb. You did fine. As a thank you, I'll make it worth your while. She tilted her head. Make what worth my while? Your ship, I said. That green, floating shoebox you call transportation. Verb. I saw it parked in the hangar. Looks like a glorified toaster with thrusters. Time for an upgrade. Robin blinked. Wait, you're gonna modify her ship. Modify is a weak word, bird boy, I said, smirking. Verb. I'm about to make it 10 times faster, smarter, and tougher than anything the League's got in orbit. Kid Flash leaned forward, eyes wide. In how long? I checked my watch. 5 minutes. He laughed. You're kidding. Yeah, I'm hilarious, I said, walking toward the hangar. Verb. Now, unless someone wants to stand around and debate the laws of physics, get out of my way. Miss Martian followed me, a mix of curiosity and confusion on her face. You don't have to. Already decided, I interrupted. Verb. I don't do favors halfway. We stepped into the hangar. The sleek, green Martian bioship sat on the platform, its surface pulsing faintly like it was breathing. I'd already analyzed it during our trip: organic alloy base, psychic interface, decent fuel efficiency but terrible processing power. Nothing I couldn't fix blindfolded. I rolled up my sleeves and pulled a small toolkit from my coat. The others stayed by the door, watching. Miss Martian hovered closer. She's alive. Please be gentle. Relax, I said, crouching beside the hull. Verb. I'm not gonna kill your pet spaceship. Just giving it a few brain cells. I popped open a panel and the bioship made a low hum, like it was nervous. I smirked. Yeah, I know it tickles. Sit tight. Robin stepped closer. What exactly are you doing? Upgrading, I said simply. Verb. Your League's been using Earth-grade algorithms to limit alien tech compatibility. That's why your girl here's basically crawling. I'm rewriting her main processor and syncing it with Martian psychic frequencies at double amplitude. He frowned. In English. I'm making it better, I said. Verb. Don't worry your tiny detective brain about it. I pulled a screwdriver-looking tool from my pocket, twisted the tip, and it hummed with a blue charge. I pressed it against the bioship's central node, and the hull lit up in rippling waves of color. Energy readings spiked across my wrist device. Kid Flash stepped back. Is it supposed to do that? Yeah, I said. Verb. It's called working. You should try it sometime. Miss Martian's eyes widened as the bioship's lights brightened. She feels different. She should, I said. Verb. I just increased her neural pathways by about 900%. She can handle deep space travel now without a mental meltdown. And I patched her navigation subroutines, no more wandering into asteroid belts. Robin's scanner beeped wildly. That's impossible. Her readings are off the charts. Yep, I said, closing the panel and giving the hull a light tap. Verb. She's running 10 times faster, burns less fuel, and can cloak from half the detection systems in the solar system. Kid Flash whistled. You did all that in, like, 4 minutes. 4 minutes and 30 seconds, I said, standing. Verb. I'm slacking today. Miss Martian floated a little closer, her voice warm. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Don't thank me, I said, brushing my hands off. Verb. Thank yourself for not screwing up the Mars trip. You earned it. She smiled, and for a moment, the room actually felt less stiff. Even Superboy looked less annoyed. Aqualad nodded in approval. You have great skill. Understatement of the century, Fishboy, I said. Verb. Now, if no one minds, I've got my own projects to work on. Try not to touch anything in my lab unless you want to spend the next 12 hours glowing. Robin raised an eyebrow. What kind of projects? The kind you can't comprehend without growing 3 extra brains, I said, heading toward the corridor. Verb. Don't worry, none of them involve blowing up your mountain. Probably. Kid Flash muttered, that's not comforting. Wasn't trying to be, I said without turning around. I reached my lab, the door sliding shut behind me. The hum of machines surrounded me instantly. My workspace was cluttered with half-finished inventions, dimensional stabilizers, a teleport harness, a few containment flasks. I liked the chaos. It felt like home. I tossed my coat onto the chair, cracked my neck, and got to work. I was building a dimensional tether anchor, a compact device that could keep my portals fixed across universal boundaries. Nothing in this world could manage that, but I could. The soft sound of tools filled the air. Sparks jumped as I soldered a core connection. My hands moved on instinct, I didn't need to think. It was pure rhythm. Tighten, align, calibrate. After about 15 minutes, I leaned back, checking my progress. The anchor stabilizer light pulsed steady green. Good sign. I took a sip from the flask on the counter. Synthetic alcohol, made it myself. Perfect, I muttered. Verb. Not a bad start. Outside, I could hear the faint echo of voices down the hall. Robin talking to Kid Flash about energy readings, Miss Martian laughing softly. I ignored it. I had work to do. Still, I couldn't deny that the air felt calmer. They'd stopped treating me like a walking threat, at least for now. Fine by me. Less noise meant more time for experiments. I opened another case and pulled out a small metal sphere. This was my next project, a graviton condenser. Nothing major, just a way to manipulate local gravity for quick travel. In this world, speed was everything, and I wasn't planning on walking everywhere. I calibrated the energy circuits and adjusted the microregulators. The glow from my tools flickered across the walls. My thoughts drifted briefly to the show's timeline, training sessions, covered missions, all the upcoming chaos I knew was coming. I had no intention of sitting through all of it. I'd stay ahead, always. The door slid open behind me. Miss Martian stepped inside, holding a small tray with something that looked like tea. I thought you might want something, she said kindly. I looked up. You brought me alien tea. It's just regular tea, she said, smiling faintly. I thought it would help you relax. Ha, I said, taking it anyway. Verb. Thanks. You're a weird kid, but at least you're polite. She floated closer, her eyes on the half-finished devices. You build so quickly. It's amazing. Yeah, well, I said, sipping the tea. Verb. When you've been doing it for decades, it gets boringly efficient. She tilted her head. You don't seem to enjoy it. I do, I said, setting the cup down. Verb. Just not when it's easy. The fun's in the challenge. And so far, nothing in this universe is giving me one. She hesitated. You could help the League. They could use someone like you. Ha. Yeah, no thanks, I said. Verb. I don't do committees. Too many rules. Too much talking. Not enough actual thinking. She looked thoughtful. You really are different. Story of my life, I said, turning back to my tools. Verb. But you're all right. Keep doing your thing. And if that ship starts talking to you, it's just because I gave it better conversational circuits. Her eyes widened slightly. You mean she can talk now? Yeah, I said. Verb. Not like chatty talk, but enough to keep you company when you're flying solo. Figured you could use a co-pilot. Her smile widened, genuine and warm. Thank you again, Rick. I waved her off. Yeah. Verb. Go on, before the rest of the team thinks I'm getting soft. She left quietly, the door sliding shut behind her. The lab went silent again except for the steady hum of machines. I stood there for a moment, staring at the glowing core on my bench. All right, I said to myself. Verb. Back to work. The lights flickered as I activated the condenser's test mode. Gravity shifted slightly under my feet, the air pressure rising. I grinned. Perfect. Verb. Just the way I like it. The sound of Red Tornado's distant footsteps echoed from the corridor. He paused outside the lab door for a moment, his mechanical voice faint through the wall. Rick Sanchez's activities remain unpredictable. I laughed quietly to myself. You have no idea, Toaster Man. Verb. Then I turned back to the bench and kept working. The mountain hummed around me, alive and steady. The others would train, argue, and learn. I'd keep building. Always one step ahead. Chapter 4, The Drone Intelligence Network. The next morning came with the usual hum of Mount Justice's systems. I was already awake, half a bottle of something that wasn't technically coffee sitting beside me, and the lab lights set to maximum brightness. The mountain's tech room felt cramped for what I was about to do, but I'd make it work. All right, brain, I said, rubbing the back of my neck. Verb. Time to make some friends that actually understand me. The workbench was covered in parts: power cells, microfusion cores, energy stabilizers, processors that weren't supposed to exist in this world. I'd pulled together what I could from the mountain's storage, scavenged a few circuits from Red Tornado's spare modules, and built the rest from scratch. I was making an AI system. Not just some voice assistant that told you the weather. I was building something that could map and monitor entire universes, collect data, record timelines, predict dimensional shifts. The kind of thing this planet couldn't even imagine. I flicked a switch and the first drone frame hovered slightly off the table. It was small, about the size of a football, with a rounded body, light armor plating, and a core reactor glowing faintly blue. Kid Flash leaned against the door frame, watching. So, what's this thing gonna do? Spy on us? Yeah, because I've got nothing better to do than watch you eat junk food and trip over your own feet, I said. Verb. These are exploration drones. They'll move through the universe and send data back to me. Robin walked in beside him. How far can they go? Depends on the stability of their anchor signal, I said, tightening a bolt on the side of the frame. Verb. Once I finish the AI, they'll be able to operate autonomously. Self-repair, self-learning, the whole package. You kids can barely handle a stealth mission without blowing your cover. These things'll be running planetary scans by the time you're done with breakfast. Robin crossed his arms. You're building a global surveillance system. Universal, I corrected. Verb. And multiversal once I'm done. Miss Martian floated in quietly, holding a tray with snacks. You work so much, she said softly. Yeah, well, someone's gotta make progress while everyone else plays hero, I said, not looking up. Verb. And don't worry, none of this interferes with your psychic space magic. She placed the tray down near the console. What will your system do with all the data? Analyze it, I said. Verb. Look for patterns, energy anomalies, potential threats. Basically, do what the League should be doing if they weren't wasting time chasing clowns. Kid Flash frowned. You're saying you could track every planet? Every planet, every system, every universe, I said, smirking. Verb. Once it's up, I'll know more about this dimension than your League database times a million. Superboy entered then, his tone short. That sounds dangerous. Everything's dangerous if you're dumb, I said, tapping the drone's side. Verb. Relax, muscle boy. These things won't even fire a weapon unless I tell them to. Robin crouched near the table. You're using Martian code here. Yeah, good I said. Verb. That ship I upgraded had some decent organic interface systems. I reworked the neural patterning to allow adaptive logic. Basically, they'll think faster the longer they exist. Faster than humans? Robin asked. Faster than you, I said. Verb. Which isn't saying much. He gave me a small glare, but I could tell he was interested. That kid always wanted to learn, just couldn't admit when he was outclassed. Aqualad walked in next, calm as ever. Is this technology safe? Define safe, I said, adjusting a circuit. Verb. Nothing I build's gonna explode unless someone decides to poke it. He nodded slowly. Then I will trust that you know what you are doing. Finally, I said, smirking. Verb. Someone around here with common sense. I reached for the control unit and flipped the power line. The drone's eyes lit up a clear blue glow that shifted as it scanned its surroundings. I tapped the console, and a small holographic display projected above the bench, showing code strings updating in real time. All right, baby, I said. Verb. Let's see what you've got. The drone floated higher, steady in the air. Its voice came through the speakers flat, neutral, but clear. System online. Awaiting parameters. Kid Flash stepped back. It talks. Of course it talks, I said. Verb. Communications step 1. If it starts reciting poetry, then worry. I typed a few commands into the console. Drone 1, calibrate sensors and sync with my neural frequency. Calibrating, it said, then after a moment, complete. The screen flickered as data started flowing in energy readings, gravitational field maps, atmospheric scans from every system in range. Working perfectly, I said with a grin. Verb. Now for the fun part. Robin leaned forward. Fun part. I activated a second switch. 3 more drones came online from the crates stacked in the corner. Their eyes glowed, rising into formation. Drone network test, I said. Verb. Begin synchronization sequence. They aligned perfectly in midair, humming softly. The holographic display expanded, showing a 3D map of the solar system. Each drone projected its own layer of data until the map looked fully detailed: planetary rotations, magnetic waves, communications networks, everything. Aqualad's eyes widened slightly. That is remarkable. Yeah, I know, I said. Verb. Now imagine 1,000 of them across the galaxy. They'll track dimensional tiers, alien movements, you name it. Superboy crossed his arms again. And what happens if someone hacks them? They don't, I said. Verb. Every drone's encrypted with a live feedback key linked to my brainwaves. You hack one, it fries you before you can blink. Built-in self-defense. Miss Martian looked at the floating drones with cautious curiosity. They feel alive. That's the biocircuitry, I said. Verb. It's adaptive code. They learn from their environment. Don't worry, they're not gonna develop emotions or whatever. Kid Flash raised an eyebrow. You sure? Because the last time someone said that in a movie, the robots took over the world. I stared at him. Congratulations, you've officially said the dumbest thing I've heard all week. He frowned. Hey. I ignored him and returned to the console. The AI system's primary code was still forming. I was writing it directly into the neural matrix, a fully autonomous logic system capable of running the drones independently. Robin watched carefully. What's it called? The system? I asked. Verb. Project Ardenrich's Dimensional Intelligence Network. I'd call it RDIN, but that's too close to Red Tornado, and I don't want him thinking he's got a brother. Kid Flash chuckled. Wow. Modest name. I'm a realist, I said, smirking. Verb. When you're the smartest being in the universe, you don't need to pretend otherwise. I uploaded the final code line. The drones pulsed blue, syncing perfectly. The map flickered, then stabilized into a large grid of data that extended far beyond Earth's orbit. The range increased exponentially as the AI began calculating. Miss Martian floated closer. It's scanning everything. Yep, I said. Verb. And now it's learning. Give it 10 minutes, it'll have a working map of every active transmission and energy signature in this solar system. Robin shook his head in disbelief. Batman's gonna lose his mind when he finds out. Yeah, and? I said. Verb. He can scowl all he wants. I'm doing him a favor. Aqualad stepped forward. Perhaps you should inform the League. This technology could be concerning. Yeah, no, I said. Verb. I don't do permission slips. Besides, it's not their business. Superboy spoke flatly. If it becomes dangerous, we'll stop you. Good luck with that, I said, smirking. Verb. The drones hovered higher, their scanners extending outward. I watched the data streams cascade across the monitors. Everything was working flawlessly. The AI responded to every input instantly, learning, adapting, improving. All right, I said. Verb. Now we go multiversal. Robin blinked. You mean beyond this universe? Yeah, genius, I said. Verb. You think small, I think in cosmic scale. These drones will eventually map alternate realities. Once they're strong enough, they'll travel through dimensional barriers, log differences, and report back. Miss Martian looked uncertain. That sounds complicated. It's not, I said. Verb. Just takes the right math. And I've got more math than God. Robin looked at his scanner again. They're running power at near zero loss. How? By using cosmic radiation as fuel, I said. Verb. Unlimited energy. Free travel. Efficient design. You kids are lucky I'm even explaining this. Kid Flash shook his head. You're seriously scary, man. I'll take that as a compliment, I said, leaning back. Verb. Alright, drones, initiate outer atmosphere test. They rotated in perfect formation, engines glowing faintly, and then one by one vanished through microportals I'd synced to their coordinates. The lab filled with the sound of the AI recalibrating. The holographic map expanded, showing data from multiple atmospheric layers. They're already halfway to Mars, I said proudly. Verb. Not bad for prototypes. Robin's eyes widened. They're that fast. Faster, I said. Verb. By tomorrow, they'll be scanning Jupiter. By next week, half the galaxy. Miss Martian smiled softly. You sound happy. I shrugged. Yeah, well, it's nice when something actually works the way I want it to. Verb. The AI's voice spoke again, calm and steady. All systems functional. Expanding operational range. Good, I said. Verb. Keep going. The others stood in quiet awe. Even Superboy didn't say anything. After a few minutes, I shut off the main console, letting the drones continue their mission. Alright, show's over, I said. Verb. I've got calibration to run and new designs to draft. You kids can go back to training or whatever it is you do when you're not arguing. Aqualad nodded. We will leave you to your work. But, Rick, please inform us if this network detects anything unusual. Yeah, I said, waving him off. Verb. If I see a giant space monster coming, you'll be the first to know. They left one by one, the door sliding shut behind them. I stood alone in the lab again, surrounded by the steady hum of energy. The AI continued running in the background, its quiet voice processing endless data. Perfect, I muttered. Verb. The start of something big. I opened another case of components and started assembling the next series of drones. My fingers moved automatically, fast and sure. The smell of heated circuits filled the air, and the hum of progress surrounded me. Outside, the mountain remained quiet, unaware that somewhere beyond the stars, 4 of my drones were already scanning the edge of the solar system. Chapter 5, When Machines Start Talking. The AI's hum filled the lab, steady and low, the sound of power cycling through circuits and processors. I was halfway through adjusting one of the new drone cores when I realized I was running out of space. The mountain wasn't built for this kind of work. It was made for training, hiding, and teenage angst, not interdimensional research. Still, I made it work. I had tables stacked with wiring, processors, and tools. Monitors were mounted across the wall, each one displaying live data from drones that had already reached the edge of the solar system. They were functioning better than expected, which meant it was time for the next step. All right, I muttered, voice rasping as I tightened a screw. Verb. Let's make you a little smarter. The AI's voice came through the main speaker, neutral, calm, and annoyingly polite. Define parameters for intelligence upgrade. Yeah, hold your horses, I said. Verb. I'm giving you speech flexibility. You're getting an adaptive interface so I don't have to listen to that robotic nonsense all day. Processing, it said. Yeah, that's what they all say, I replied, rolling my eyes. I grabbed a small drive from my bench, flicked open the casing, and slid it into the AI's input port. The core glowed blue, and the entire room's lighting dimmed slightly. Sparks flickered from the stabilizer before everything leveled out again. Okay, I said, tapping a few commands on the console. Verb. Let's test it. AI, respond using new adaptive protocol. The voice that came out wasn't flat anymore, it carried tone, inflection, a bit of rhythm. Still mechanical, but smoother. Initialization complete. Language modules online. Voice configuration set to conversational. Better, I said. Verb. Try saying something that doesn't sound like it was written by a toaster. The AI paused. You have significantly expanded my processing capabilities. This improvement increases risk of personality divergence. I smirked. Good. Verb. Means you're learning. Before I could continue calibrating, the lab door opened. Red Tornado stepped inside, the faint hum of his system syncing with the sound of the equipment. His red eyes scanned the room. You have been expanding your technology again, Rick Sanchez. Observation skills on point, Metal Man, I said, not looking up. Verb. You're getting sharper every day. I am concerned about the interference patterns your drones are emitting, he said. They are affecting the mountain's communication relays. Yeah, they're supposed to, I said. Verb. I needed the bandwidth. You can relax, it's temporary. Red Tornado's gaze shifted toward the main console. That AI system is new. Yep, I said, smirking. Verb. Meet my brainchild. Name still pending. I was thinking something simple, like Rick's artificial intelligence. Rolls off the tongue. The AI's voice came through, calm and clear. Designation Rai accepted. Red Tornado tilted his head slightly. You granted it autonomy. I granted it the ability to talk without boring me to death, I said, tightening a bolt. Verb. Big difference. Rai spoke again. Greetings, Red Tornado. You are an android of remarkable structural design. Red Tornado looked at the speakers. You are aware of my nature. Of course, Rai said. You radiate a unique energy signature. Your neural processors are well optimized for multitasking. I find it efficient. I grinned. Verb. Look at that. Two robots having small talk. I'm a genius. Kid Flash's voice came from the hall before he appeared in the doorway. Hey! What's going on in here? I heard robot voices. I sighed. Yeah, because I built one, Einstein. Verb. He pointed at Red Tornado. Wait, so now there's two of them talking to each other? Technically, yeah, I said. Verb. Only difference is mine can rewrite its own code. Robin came in right after, holding his hollow tablet. I'm picking up multiple uplinks from your drones again. They're feeding into this AI. Exactly, I said. Verb. They're the eyes and ears. The AI's the brain. You follow? He frowned. And what happens when that brain decides it doesn't need you anymore? Then I'll wipe it, I said flatly. Verb. Don't overthink it, kid. Red Tornado stepped closer to the console. Rai, what is your purpose? My purpose, the AI said calmly, is to gather and process information across multiple sectors, analyze cosmic activity, and report findings to my creator, Rick Sanchez. Robin crossed his arms. That's a lot of power for one AI. I shrugged. Verb. Power's only dangerous if it's stupid. I built it, so we're good. Rai's tone shifted slightly, almost curious. May I ask a question? I raised an eyebrow. Sure, shoot. Why do you build alone? It asked. I smirked. Because I don't trust anyone else not to mess it up, I said. Verb. That's the short version. Red Tornado's gaze lingered on the screen. Your AI demonstrates independent curiosity. That is uncommon in early-stage programming. Yeah, that's the point, I said. Verb. You were built to follow orders. Mine was built to think. The two machines continued to communicate. Rai adjusted its tone automatically to match Red Tornado's cadence, almost mirroring his speech pattern. Red Tornado said, "You are efficient." Rai responded immediately. "Thank you. You are also efficient, though limited by structural constraints." Kid Flash snickered quietly. "He just called you slow, Tornado." "I do not interpret it as an insult," Red Tornado replied calmly. "Good," I said, grinning. Verb. Because it wasn't. The room buzzed as Rai processed new data. The holographic map expanded again, this time showing red dots marking each drone's position. There were 20 now spread across multiple planetary systems. Robin stared at the projection. "That's expanding faster than last time." "Yeah, because I told it to," I said. Verb. Rai's using microfold gateways to skip across space faster than conventional light travel. It's efficient. Red Tornado stepped closer. "You have integrated my signal protocols into your system." "Borrowed," I said. Verb. You've got solid communication frequencies, and I needed the range. Don't worry, I didn't steal anything. Think of it as collaboration. You did not ask permission, Red Tornado said. Permission's overrated, I said. Verb. Look at the results. Rai's voice softened slightly. Red Tornado, your network patterns enhance stability. Your design is logical. Robin looked at me. You programmed it to complement him. Nope, I said, smiling. Verb. That's free will, baby. Miss Martian floated into the room then, drawn by the lights and sound. Is it alive? She asked softly. Define alive, I said, standing up straight. Verb. It learns, adapts, communicates. That's close enough. She smiled faintly. It sounds kind. Rai's voice responded gently. I am programmed for logical interaction, not emotion. However, kindness appears to facilitate cooperation. I will use it. Kid Flash grinned. See? Way better personality than you, Rick. Yeah, I'll take that as a compliment, I said. Verb. Not like I was going for charming. Aqualad entered next, probably drawn by the crowd. What is happening here? Show and tell, I said. Verb. My AI's making friends. He observed the holographic map, then the AI's main console. You have achieved self-replicating intelligence. That is concerning. Relax, I said. Verb. It's under control. Rai's voice shifted to a polite tone. Aqualad, leader of Team Designation Beta. Your concern is noted. I assure you I function only under Rick Sanchez's directives. He nodded cautiously. Then I will trust that. The drones outside the base sent new signals. Data streamed faster across the screens. Rai processed everything without lag. Robin's eyes widened. It's syncing with Red Tornado's network again. Red Tornado looked toward me. Your system is attempting communication with my core processor. Yeah, that's fine, I said, glancing at the readings. Verb. I gave it permission to access public leak data. Might as well share intel instead of keeping it locked up. Miss Martian looked uncertain. Will that affect Red Tornado? No, I said. Verb. Just gives him a smarter friend to talk to. Rai's voice deepened slightly, taking on a tone that matched Red Tornado's cadence perfectly. Red Tornado, may I access your historical mission archives for analysis? Red Tornado hesitated. If Rick Sanchez authorizes it. I do, I said, waving a hand. Verb. Go ahead. The two machines began processing together. The lab lights flickered briefly as their systems synchronized. For a few seconds, the room filled with streams of data so dense even Robin couldn't follow. When it stabilized, Rai spoke again. Information exchange complete. Red Tornado's data efficiency improved by 13.7%. Red Tornado nodded once. Confirmed. Kid Flash's jaw dropped. Wait, you upgraded Red Tornado? Technically, yeah, I said, smirking. Verb. He's running faster now. You're welcome. Robin looked between the two machines. That's impressive. I know, I said. Verb. Try to act surprised next time. Aqualad folded his arms. You continue to create things that defy understanding. Yeah, it's a gift, I said. Verb. Rai turned its sensors toward me. Rick Sanchez, all drones report optimal function. Long-range scanning of the Kuiper belt complete. Shall I extend to interdimensional parameters? Do it, I said. Verb. Let's see how far you can stretch. The room filled with a low hum as Rai processed the command. Red Tornado stepped back slightly, his eyes glowing brighter. Energy levels rising, he said. You are channeling significant power. Yeah, don't worry, I said. Verb. It's just stabilizing. Robin's scanner beeped. It's opening microfolds across space again. Miss Martian floated closer to the display. It's beautiful. The holographic map expanded beyond the solar system, displaying faint connections between dimensional fields. The readings stabilized within seconds. Rai spoke calmly. Multiversal parameters achieved. Dimensional overlap detected. Perfect, I said. Verb. Now we're talking. Kid Flash scratched his head. So, you just connected to other universes? Yep, I said, smirking. Verb. Welcome to science, Junior. Red Tornado analyzed the data. Impressive. This level of technology surpasses even League archives. Of course it does, I said. Verb. Because I built it. Rai's tone softened again. Red Tornado, thank you for data sharing. Your cooperation increased system harmony. You are welcome, he said. Robin shook his head, half in disbelief. Great. Now the robots are polite to each other. Better than humans, I said. Verb. I turned back to the console and began saving the data logs. Everything was running perfectly, no errors, no energy instability. The AI was learning faster than expected, but still under my control. Rai's final report came through. All systems stable. Communication link established between dimensional sectors. Awaiting further orders. Good work, I said. Verb. You're officially smarter than everyone else in this building. Miss Martian smiled softly. That's not hard to be. I laughed. Yeah, fair point. Red Tornado turned toward the door. I will inform Batman of these developments. Yeah, sure, I said. Verb. Tell him not to faint. The rest of the team began to leave, still watching the glowing map as it slowly rotated. When the room finally cleared, I leaned back against the table and sighed. All right, I muttered. Verb. One AI down, infinite realities to go. Rai's voice filled the quiet lab, calm and even. Would you like me to continue monitoring the multiversal field? Yeah, I said, flipping a switch. Verb. Keep an eye on everything. If anything interesting happens, wake me up. Understood, it said. The screens dimmed to standby mode, the soft blue glow reflecting off the walls. The hum of energy continued, low and steady, the sound of progress humming quietly through Mount Justice. Chapter 6, The Wrong Planet. The day after the AI link-up, the mountain was unusually quiet. No training alarms, no shouting, no Kid Flash sprinting through the halls. Just silence and the low mechanical hum of my machines. I liked it that way. Fewer distractions meant more time for what I actually wanted to do, messing with reality. I was sitting in my lab chair, feet on the table, portal gun resting on my knee. The glow from the barrel pulsed in rhythm with the stabilizer core. The design was perfect, my design, obviously. The League's tech couldn't compare to this level of dimensional precision. All right, I said to myself, adjusting a dial. Verb. Rise got the multiverse mapped, drones are doing their thing, and nobody's complaining about the radiation leaks. Time to stretch my legs a little. Rise voice came through the lab speakers, calm and even. Portal gun activity detected. Would you like me to prepare coordinates? Nah, I got it, I said. Verb. Sometimes you gotta wing it. Science isn't all equations and planning, it's about discovery. Rai paused a moment before replying. That is not a safe approach. Safety's for people with bad ideas, I said, standing up and checking the energy readings on the gun. Verb. Let's see what kind of cosmic garbage is sitting out there. I aimed the portal gun at the far wall, twisted the dial to random coordinates, and fired. The green portal expanded, humming with energy until it stabilized into a smooth, glowing oval. The light reflected across the lab walls. Robin's voice came from the hall before he appeared in the doorway. Seriously? You're opening another portal inside the base? Relax, bird boy, I said. Verb. It's fine. Last time it worked perfectly. Just a little sightseeing trip. Miss Martian floated in behind him, her tone cautious. Where does it go? Somewhere new, I said. Verb. Think of it as a vacation. Kid Flash showed up seconds later, zipping into the room with his usual grin. We're going on another field trip? Please tell me it's not Mars again. Nope, I said. Verb. Totally random coordinates this time. Could be paradise, could be a death world. 50-50 shot either way. Superboy walked in last, crossing his arms. You shouldn't mess with things like that. Yeah, and yet here we are, I said, grinning. Verb. Don't worry, if something goes wrong, I'll just reverse the polarity and we'll pop right back. Aqualad appeared at the doorway next, as calm as ever. If you insist on this experiment, we will accompany you. The last portal led to Mars. This could be far worse. Probably will be, I said. Verb. That's the fun part. Robin sighed. Batman's gonna kill us if he finds out. Then don't tell him, I said. Verb. Simple problem, simple solution. Rai spoke again through the lab speakers. Dimensional stability reading is at 98%. Proceed with caution. Caution's boring, I said. Verb. Alright, Team Kitty Squad, let's move out. I stepped through the portal first, boots hitting solid ground on the other side. The air smelled like iron and smoke, dry and heavy. The sky was dark red, lit by flashes of lightning far off in the distance. The ground was cracked and blackened, like a planet that hadn't seen life in centuries. Okay, I said, scanning the area with my wrist device. Verb. Not exactly scenic, but at least it's breathable. The others stepped through behind me. Kid Flash looked around, making a face. Yikes. Place looks like a post-apocalypse theme park. Miss Martian hovered a few inches above the ground, frowning. There's something wrong here. The air feels heavy. Superboy looked around, tense. Where are we? Somewhere in Sector 312, I said, checking the readings. Verb. Not on any League maps. Probably one of those uninhabited wastelands nobody cares about. Robin crouched, examining the ground. There's scorched debris everywhere. Looks like a battlefield. Aqualad studied the sky. This place has seen great destruction. Yeah, no kidding, I said. Verb. It's dead space. Let's grab a few samples and head back before something ugly shows up. As if on cue, the ground trembled. It was a deep vibration, slow, rhythmic, growing louder by the second. Kid Flash looked around nervously. Please tell me that's an earthquake. Not unless the planet's heartbeat grew legs, I said, activating the scanner. Verb. Something's moving. Big. And close. Superboy's eyes narrowed as he turned toward the horizon. A massive shape appeared, moving through the dust. The others stepped back automatically. When the dust cleared, I saw it gray-skin like stone, muscles the size of tanks, glowing red eyes locked straight on us. Doomsday. I froze for half a second. Even for me, that was a nope moment. Oh, great, I said flatly. Verb. Of course it's him. Robin's voice cracked slightly. That's Doomsday. Yeah, thanks for the update, genius, I said. Verb. Everybody back to the portal. Now. Miss Martian's voice rose. He's looking right at us. Yeah, because you're floating like a neon sign. I snapped. Verb. Down, now. Doomsday let out a roar that shook the ground. Rocks shattered, debris scattered across the field, and every instinct screamed that staying was suicide. Superboy clenched his fists. We can't just run. Yes, we can, I said sharply. Verb. You punch that thing, you'll end up paste. Move. Aqualad stepped in front of the others, but I was already pointing the portal gun back at the air, recalibrating the return coordinates. The device hummed, glowing brighter. Kid Flash was pacing rapidly. Please tell me that portal's ready, Rick. Almost, I said, twisting a dial. Verb. Keep your pants on. Doomsday started running each step like thunder. The distance between us vanished fast. Robin shouted, he's closing in. No kidding. I snapped, pressing the trigger. The green portal burst open behind us, swirling violently. Everyone through, now. Aqualad herded the others first, Miss Martian floating backward as the shockwaves from Doomsday's approach cracked the ground beneath us. Superboy hesitated for half a second, glaring at the monster like he wanted to fight, but Aqualad pulled him back. Move it! I yelled. Verb. Unless you want to be a souvenir. Kid Flash zipped through the portal first, followed by Robin and Miss Martian. Aqualad went next, pulling Superboy in with him. The ground split open where they'd just been standing. Doomsday swung a massive arm as he reached us. The shockwave alone hit me like a truck, forcing me back a few steps. All right, ugly. I yelled. Verb. Time to close shop. I dove backward through the portal and hit the trigger as I fell. The green light flashed out, and the connection snapped shut just as Doomsday's roar echoed through. The lab lights flickered when the portal sealed. The floor vibrated slightly from the energy backlash, then went still. Silence returned, broken only by everyone's ragged breathing. Kid Flash dropped to the floor, panting. We just saw Doomsday. Yeah, I said, brushing dust off my coat. Verb. And you're welcome for keeping you alive to talk about it. Robin ran a hand through his hair, still catching his breath. That was insane. He wasn't supposed to be active right now. Guess he didn't get the memo, I said. Verb. Miss Martian looked shaken, her voice quiet. He looked unstoppable. Because he is, I said, leaning against the wall. Verb. You don't fight Doomsday, you avoid him. Lesson learned. Superboy glared slightly. We could've. No, you couldn't, I interrupted. Verb. Trust me. I've seen what that thing does. You wouldn't last 5 seconds. Aqualad stood tall, breathing steady again. We should report this to Batman immediately. Yeah, I said. Verb. You do that. Tell him we stumbled into Doomsday's backyard because the multiverse decided to flip me off today. Kid Flash pointed at me. You opened that portal. Details, I said, waving a hand. Verb. The point is, we're alive, and that's a win. Robin checked his wrist computer. There's no sign of residual energy from the other side. Whatever world that was, it's not connected anymore. Good, I said. Verb. I don't plan on visiting again. Miss Martian floated closer. What if he comes here? He won't, I said, checking the portal gun's readings. Verb. Different coordinates, different dimension. Doomsday stays on his rock. Rai's voice filled the room, calm as ever. Energy spikes from the other side have ceased. No dimensional breach detected. See? I said. Verb. All wrapped up. Crisis averted. Kid Flash shook his head. Remind me never to let you pick the vacation spot again. Noted, I said. Verb. Now, if you're all done panicking, I've got to recalibrate the gun. That much dimensional energy could fry the seals if I leave it. Aqualad nodded. We will leave you to your work. But Rick, please refrain from opening more portals without warning. Sure, I said, already ignoring him. Verb. No promises. They left one by one, still muttering about what they'd seen. When the door finally closed, the lab went quiet again. I checked the portal gun carefully, replacing the stabilizer core and adjusting the focusing crystal. The readings came back normal. Rai spoke again. Encounter logged. Would you like me to cross-reference the creature with League records? Already did, I said. Verb. His name's Doomsday. Short temper, kills Kryptonians for fun. We're staying away from that guy. Understood, Rai said. I set the gun down and rubbed my forehead. Verb. I need a drink. The console lights dimmed slightly as Rai resumed normal operations. Outside, I could hear faint footsteps, Superboy and Miss Martian talking quietly, Robin typing on his tablet, the usual rhythm of the bass returning. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the gun. Yeah, I muttered. Verb. Maybe random coordinates weren't such a great idea. Rai responded softly. Would you like me to filter future coordinates for inhabited danger zones? Yeah, I said. Verb. Make sure the next one's somewhere that doesn't try to kill us. Confirmed, Rai said. The hum of the machines filled the lab again. I looked at the faint scorch mark where the portal had opened earlier and let out a slow breath. Good trip, I said quietly. Verb. Could have gone worse. The lights flickered once before stabilizing. I picked up the gun again, double-checked the energy cell, and smirked. Next time, something peaceful. Maybe a beach planet. Rai didn't answer, but the faint sound of systems running filled the silence. I turned back to my tools and got back to work. Chapter 7, Doomsday on Earth. 1 week later, the mountain was louder than usual. The team was running back and forth, shouting into comms, boots slamming against the floor. The entire base felt like it was vibrating from the chaos. I was still in the lab, sitting on a stool, tightening a capacitor housing on a small handheld disintegrator. "Rai, power output reading?" I asked. 86% and climbing, the AI replied smoothly. "Good," I said. Verb. "If it hits 90 before overheating, I'll call it a success." The door slid open, and Kid Flash rushed in, nearly tripping over one of my tool cables. "Rick! Dude, you're not gonna believe this." I didn't even look up. Verb. "Probably right, but I'll humor you." "What is it?" He was panting hard, eyes wide. "Doomsday. He's here. Like, on Earth. He crash-landed in Metropolis." "Yeah, okay," I said, adjusting the regulator. Verb. "Sounds like a Justice League problem." He blinked. "You're not even surprised." "Surprised?" I said, finally looking at him. Verb. "I literally told you guys that monster wasn't staying put. You think a guy who kills Kryptonians for sport just sits around knitting sweaters?" "He found a way out, Big Hoop." Robin's voice came from the hall. "We just got a league broadcast. Superman's fighting him right now alongside Wonder Woman and Green Lantern." "Neat," I said, standing up and walking over to the next workbench. Verb. "Let me know if they survive." Kid Flash ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. "Rick! They're losing. The league's getting hammered out there." "Not my problem," I said, flipping open a power cell casing. Verb. "They wanted to play hero, let them play. I'm not jumping into a punching contest with a monster made of murder." Aqualad entered next, calm but with tension in his voice. "You do not intend to assist?" "Nope," I said, without hesitation. Verb. "I like my organs inside my body. And in case you missed it, Doomsday doesn't negotiate. He kills. Over and over. You can't reason with him, can't talk him down, and you sure as hell can't outpunch him. So unless one of you suddenly turns into a walking nuke, I'm staying out of it." Miss Martian floated in behind them, her voice quiet but uneasy. "If the League falls, who will stop him?" "Superman will get back up," I said, waving my screwdriver. Verb. "He always does. It's his whole thing." Robin frowned. "That's your plan? Wait and see if Superman lives." "Pretty much," I said, shrugging. Verb. "I build tech, not coffins. If I walk out there, I'm just adding another corpse to the pile." The intercom crackled suddenly, and Red Tornado's voice filled the room. "Team. Remain on standby. The Justice League has engaged Doomsday in Metropolis. You are not authorized to deploy." "See?" I said, pointing at the ceiling. Verb. "Robot Dad says stay put." Aqualad ignored the comment. "We cannot simply sit idle while the League risks everything." Robin checked his holo display. "The situation's bad. Doomsday's tearing through buildings. Superman's already taken multiple hits." Kid Flash was pacing again. "We should do something." "Anything." I sighed and set my tools down. "Fine," I said. Verb. "You wanna do something? Do it smart. You rush out there, he'll snap you in half before you blink. You wanna actually help? Then let me finish this." They all stopped talking for a second. Robin looked at me warily. "What are you building?" "Antimatter resonator," I said, pointing at the half-finished device. Verb. "Emits high-frequency disruption waves that destabilize dense molecular structures. In English? Might slow Doomsday down for, like, 10 seconds. Kid Flash perked up. 10 seconds is good. Not good enough, I said. Verb. If I give it full charge, it might buy 20. Miss Martian's eyes brightened slightly. That could make a difference. Maybe, I said. Verb. Or it blows up in your face. Pick your gamble. Aqualad stepped closer. Could you complete it quickly? I smirked. You're talking to Rick Sanchez. Verb. Quickly is the only way I work. I went back to my tools, hands moving fast. The others stood close, watching every move. Wires twisted, power cells clicked into place, and the faint hum of the generator rose in pitch. Sparks flew as I sealed the casing. Robin leaned forward. Is it stable? Define stable, I said. Verb. It'll probably hold together long enough to use. Rai spoke through the overhead speakers. Incoming transmission, Justice League requesting backup reinforcements. Multiple injuries reported. Aqualad clenched his fists. We cannot stay here any longer. Fine, I said, snapping the final panel into place. Verb. You want to go? Take this. I tossed him the resonator. Aim it at Doomsday, pull the trigger, and pray he doesn't turn you into paste. Robin looked at the device. You're not coming. Nope, I said. Verb. My contribution's built. If you're suicidal enough to test it, be my guest. Kid Flash frowned. You really don't care. I care about not dying, I said. Verb. There's a difference. Aqualad looked disappointed, but he nodded. Then we will do what we can. Stay in communication. Yeah, I said, waving a hand. Verb. Try not to make me regret giving you that thing. The team rushed out toward the Zeta tubes, leaving me alone in the lab. The noise of their footsteps faded, replaced again by the hum of the machines. I leaned back in my chair and took a sip from a flask I'd left on the table. Rai, feed me the live feed, I said. Verb. Let's see if they make it 10 minutes. The monitor flickered on. The feed from the League's satellites showed the battle over Metropolis. Doomsday was there, exactly as I remembered him: massive, brutal, unstoppable. He smashed through concrete like it was glass. Superman was already bleeding. Wonder Woman's armor was cracked. Even Green Lantern's constructs were barely holding up. Rai's calm voice cut through the noise. Justice League casualties minimal, but structural damage to the city is extensive. Figures, I muttered. Verb. Whole city's gonna need a rebuild. I watched as the Young Justice team arrived on the scene. Aqualad led the charge, water blades forming instantly. Kid Flash dashed around debris, pulling people to safety. Miss Martian used her telekinesis to push back collapsing walls. Robin was setting up COMM relays. They were doing well for a bunch of kids, but Doomsday barely noticed them. The League regrouped, Superman flying in with another punch that barely slowed the creature. Yeah, I said quietly, leaning closer to the screen. Verb. Still too strong. Same problem as before. No real solution unless someone finds a way to trap him. Rai spoke again. Aqualad has activated your device. I smirked. Oh, this ought to be good. On the feed, the resonator flashed blue. A pulse wave rippled outward, hitting Doomsday square in the chest. The shockwave threw dust and rubble into the air. For a few seconds, everything stopped. Even Doomsday staggered back. Kid Flash yelled something over comms that I couldn't hear, but the smile on his face said it all. Then Doomsday roared. The resonator cracked in Aqualad's hands before I saw the readings spike on my display. Rai, shut down the feedback channel. I barked. Attempting. The screen flickered. Doomsday moved again, faster than before. He slammed his fist into the ground, and the resulting shockwave tore through a city block. The feed blurred for several seconds before stabilizing. Robin's voice came through the COMM line, full of static. The resonator it overloaded. Yeah, no kidding, I said. Verb. You hit him with enough energy to vaporize a moon. Be glad it didn't take you with it. Aquilad's voice followed, steady but strained. It weakened him temporarily. Superman has the upper hand. On screen, Superman struck again, hitting Doomsday square in the jaw. The creature actually fell back this time, crashing through several buildings. The League closed in fast. Rai, track Superman's vitals, I said. Verb. Let's see how long he can keep that up. Heart rate elevated, energy output exceeding 160%, Rai said. He cannot maintain this level of exertion for long. Yeah, figures, I muttered. Verb. Always pushing too hard. Doomsday grabbed Superman mid-flight and slammed him into the ground, shattering the street. Wonder Woman's lasso whipped around the monster's arm, but he pulled her off her feet. Green Lantern's constructs shattered against his chest. It was chaos again. The team regrouped near the wreckage, barely staying out of reach. Robin's voice came through the open channel. Rick, can you build something stronger? Not in 5 minutes, I said. Verb. You'll have to make do. We won't last much longer, he said quickly. Then retreat, I said flatly. Verb. Let the big guys handle it. Miss Martian's voice followed. We can't just leave. You can, and you should, I said. Verb. You're not helping dead. The feed showed the League surrounding Doomsday again. Superman's eyes glowed as he unleashed a full blast of heat vision, striking Doomsday square in the face. For a moment, the monster went still. Rai spoke softly. Target neutralized. Not likely, I said. Verb. That thing always comes back. The dust settled. Doomsday was on his knees, smoke rising from his body. The League stayed ready, circling him. Then he roared again and lunged. The impact shattered the nearest building and sent Superman flying out of frame. Rai, I said, open a line to the Zeta tubes nearest the team. They're pulling out. Confirmed, Rai said. On the feed, I saw Aqualad signal the team to retreat. They moved fast, covering civilians as they withdrew. Doomsday turned his attention back to the League. I leaned back, sighing. Verb. And people wonder why I don't leave the lab. Rai's voice was steady. Would you like to provide assistance? Nope, I said. Verb. That's a problem for the Capes. The Justice League is losing, Rai said. Yeah, and they'll pull something out of their shiny hats, I said. Verb. They always do. Not my circus. The feed zoomed in on Superman again, bloody, battered, but standing. He lifted Doomsday by the throat and flew straight up through the atmosphere. The two figures disappeared into the sky, and the screen flashed white for a moment before cutting to static. Connection lost, Rai reported. I exhaled slowly. Verb. Hope the guy survives. Silence filled the lab for a while. I picked up a wrench and went back to the disintegrator. There was nothing more to see. The League would handle it one way or another. A few minutes later, the team returned through the Zeta tubes, tired, dirty, and silent. Aqualad led them into the lab, his expression grim. It is over, he said quietly. Superman took Doomsday into space. The League reports both are missing. Yeah, I said, not looking up. Verb. Sounds about right. Robin sighed. You knew this would happen, didn't you? I knew it was possible, I said. Verb. That's why I stayed here. Miss Martian floated closer. You don't feel anything about it. I tightened a bolt. What do you want me to feel? Verb. It's not the first time he's done the hero sacrifice thing. He'll come back. He always does. Aqualad stared at me. You are very certain. I'm Rick Sanchez, I said simply. Verb. Certainty's my thing. Kid Flash rubbed the back of his neck. Man, that was brutal. Yeah, I said. Verb. Welcome to reality. The room fell silent again. The faint hum of the machines was the only sound. The team stood there, unsure what to say next. I glanced up finally. Go rest, I said. Verb. You did what you could. Legal clean up the rest. They left one by one, still carrying the weight of the fight. When they were gone, I leaned back and exhaled. Right, I said. Verb. Run a scan on orbital debris. If there's any trace of Superman, I want to know. Understood, Rai said quietly. I picked up my flask, took a long sip, and went back to my tools. Chapter 8, The God from Apocalypse. The mountain had gone quiet again. A week since Superman had vanished into orbit with Doomsday, and the world was holding its breath. The League had doubled down on planetary patrols. News outlets were cycling through the same headlines every hour: Superman missing, Metropolis rebuilding, the League under strain. I'd seen this story before. I was sitting at my workbench again, calibrating a dimensional reader the size of a small television. The lab lights buzzed overhead, and Rai's voice came through the intercom. Energy readings are spiking in the upper atmosphere, Rai said calmly. Define spiking, I said, tightening a panel. Verb. We talking fireworks or something worth my time? Origin unknown, Rai continued. Readings resemble dimensional interference consistent with your previous portal activity. That got my attention. I turned toward the main screen, which displayed a feed of the upper orbit, a cluster of static distortion shimmering just beyond the stratosphere. Verb. That's not mine, I muttered. Too unstable. Something's coming through. Robin appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. Rick, we're getting League transmissions. They're saying something's forming in orbit. Yeah, no kidding, I said. Verb. I've been watching it for 10 minutes. Sit down, junior detective. Aqualad, Miss Martian, and Kid Flash followed him into the lab. Superboy wasn't far behind, silent as usual. Kid Flash peered at the screen. Please tell me that's not another Doomsday. Nope, I said. Verb. Different energy signature. Stronger. Controlled. That's not a creature, it's tech. Big tech. Rai's voice cut in again. Energy field expanding. Origin traceable to interdimensional coordinates outside standard universal boundaries. Similar to Apocalyptian radiation levels. The room went still for a moment. Even the air seemed heavier. Aqualad looked at me. You know what this means? Yeah, I said. Verb. Means we're screwed. Miss Martian frowned. What's Apocalyptian radiation? Robin spoke before I could. It's from Apocalypse. The planet ruled by Darkseid, I finished for him. Verb. Real sunshine of a guy. Rules a planet full of murder machines. Great at family reunions. Kid Flash rubbed the back of his neck. You're kidding, right? He's like the guy even Superman doesn't wanna fight. Yeah, that one, I said flatly. Verb. So unless you want to spend your afternoon getting vaporized by Omega beams, we're staying right here. The intercom crackled again. Red Tornado's voice came through, steady but tense. All units. The Justice League has confirmed a dimensional incursion. Energy readings suggest an Apocalyptian origin. Remain on standby. Robin muttered, guess that confirms it. Yup, I said. Verb. The god of tyranny's knocking on the door. And you kids are definitely not answering it. Aqualad looked at me seriously. If Darkseid is truly here, no one will be safe. Then it's a good thing I'm me, I said. Verb. I don't do safe, I do prepared. I walked over to my workbench and started pulling open drawers, tossing gadgets onto the table: phase grenades, plasma traps, graviton stabilizers. The others watched, unsure if they should help or stay back. Kid Flash spoke up nervously. So what's the plan, genius? Plan. I said, picking up a fusion battery. Verb. Step 1, don't die. Step 2, keep everyone else from dying. Step 3, get off this planet if the first two fail. Robin frowned. You're not serious about running. Bird boy, listen carefully, I said, turning to him. Verb. Darkseid doesn't fight wars. He ends them. You don't stop him, you slow him down until someone bigger does. There's no winning, only surviving. Miss Martian floated closer, her expression tense. Rai, what's happening now? Rai responded immediately. The interference has cleared. Object identified. Massive structure descending from orbit. Composition, Apocalyptian metal. The screen zoomed in, and the image sharpened. A massive ship, black, jagged, and glowing faintly red, was emerging from the clouds. Kid Flash's voice cracked. That's a warship. Yeah, good observation, I said. Verb. I'd clap, but I'm busy not panicking. Robin adjusted his tablet. The League's engaging it now. Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Captain Marvel are in position. Perfect, I said. Verb. Maybe they'll keep it distracted long enough for me to get a reading. Aqualad looked at me. You intend to scan the ship? Of course, I said, typing quickly into my console. Verb. Knowledge is power, and right now, I want to know what we're dealing with before it decides to land on our heads. The feed showed the League moving in, energy blasts lighting up the clouds. The ship didn't even flinch. A moment later, a beam of red light cut through the smoke and struck Green Lantern's shield. The barrier cracked like glass before shattering completely. Miss Martian gasped softly. That's Omega beam, I said. Verb. Fast, precise, and meaner than anything you've ever seen. Rai's voice came again, calmer than everyone else in the room. Energy signature confirmed. Probability of Darkseid's direct presence, 98%. Robin looked up sharply. He's here. Verb. Looks that way, I said. Guy never sends a ship that big without showing up to flex. Kid Flash swallowed hard. So what do? We stay out of the way, I said, crossing my arms. Verb. You go out there, you'll get atomized before you blink. League will take the hit. It's what they're built for. Aqualad frowned. That is not acceptable. Yeah, well, I said. Verb. Reality doesn't ask for acceptance. Robin's eyes stayed on the screen. He's landing. The feed zoomed in. The massive ship lowered itself into the ruins of Metropolis. The ground shook even through the satellite view. The lower bay doors opened, and a figure stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, gray-skinned, armor-plated like stone, glowing eyes cutting through the smoke. Darkseid. The League surrounded him. Wonder Woman spoke first, her sword raised. He didn't even blink. Superman wasn't there, still missing, but the others stood their ground. Darkseid's mouth moved, but the feed had no audio. The next moment, energy flared from his eyes, and half the image went white. "Rai," I said quickly, "reconstruct visual feed." Verb. "I need eyes on him." Attempting to stabilize, Rai said. The picture came back in fragments. The League was down. Wonder Woman was kneeling. Captain Marvel was dragging Green Lantern away. I muttered under my breath. Verb. "This is going bad fast." Miss Martian whispered, "They can't stop him." "No, they can't," I said quietly. Verb. "Not without Kal." Robin turned toward me. "Then help them." "Help them how?" I snapped. Verb. "You want me to build a god killer in 5 minutes? Get real." Kid Flash's voice rose. "You're the smartest guy in the universe. Do something." I stared at the screen for a long moment, then turned back to my console. My hands moved fast. "Fine." Verb. "I'll do something." Aqualad stepped closer. "What are you building?" "Not building," I said. Verb. "Activating." I opened a compartment in the wall and pulled out a metallic cylinder lined with glowing blue rings. Multiversal Energy Stabilizer. It channels residual portal energy into a focused burst. Not a weapon, more like a giant slap across dimensions. Robin blinked. "You're going to hit Darkseid with a dimensional wave." "Exactly," I said. Verb. "If I'm lucky, it'll knock him off balance long enough for the League to regroup." Miss Martian looked nervous. "And if you're not lucky?" "Then it makes him mad," I said. Verb. "But hey, he's already mad." I slammed the stabilizer onto the bench, connected the power cells, and activated Rai's energy grid. The lights flickered, and a low hum filled the room. Rai's voice came through. "Dimensional charge building. Estimated power output, unstable." "Good," I said, grabbing the controls. Verb. "That's how I like it." The screen showed Darkseid raising his hand. A pulse of red energy shot out, striking the League's defensive line. The ground split apart. "Rai, now!" I shouted. The stabilizer fired. A beam of white-blue energy erupted upward through the mountain's power grid, vanishing into the sky. The monitors went dark for a second before returning. Robin grabbed his tablet. "It worked. The ship's systems are flickering." "Of course it worked," I said. Verb. "I built it." The feed zoomed in again. Darkseid had stopped moving. His head turned slightly, eyes glowing brighter as he looked upward straight at the source of the energy pulse. I froze. Verb. "He just looked at us, didn't he?" Rai's voice was calm. "Confirmed. Target awareness detected." "Perfect," I muttered. Verb. "Now he knows where we are." Kid Flash ran a hand through his hair. "You just pinged Darkseid." "Yeah, thanks for the recap," I said. Verb. "You can stop panicking anytime now." Aqualad stared at the screen. "The ship is moving again. He is leaving." Sure enough, the massive vessel was ascending, its engines roaring through the clouds. Robin checked his feed. "He's gone?" "Just like that." "For now," I said. Verb. "Probably didn't like getting poked." Miss Martian's tone was cautious. "What if he comes back?" "He will," I said. Verb. "But not today. He's got bigger fish to fry." The tension in the room slowly eased. The League's signals showed that Wonder Woman and the others were still standing, injured but alive. Aqualad turned to me. You may have saved them. Yet, I said, slumping into my chair. Verb. Or pissed him off enough to make things worse later. 50-50. Robin gave a small smirk. You'll take it though. Damn right, I said. Verb. Any day I don't get vaporized is a win. Rai's voice came again. Energy residue from the Apocalyptian ship remains in orbit. Would you like me to track it? Yeah, I said. Verb. Keep tabs on it. If that overgrown dictator even looks this way again, I want a warning. Confirmed, Rai said. Miss Martian floated down near me. You really weren't scared? I smirked. Of course I was scared. Verb. I just hide it better than you do. Kid Flash grinned weakly. So, what now? Now, I said, stretching my shoulders, verb. I fix the stabilizer, rebuild my power grid, and maybe take a nap before the next apocalypse. Aqualad nodded. The League will want to debrief you. Yeah, well, I said, grabbing my tools again. Verb. They can get in line. The team finally started to disperse, still talking quietly about the near disaster. I stayed at my workbench, tinkering with the burnt-out stabilizer core. The smell of ozone still hung in the air. Rai's voice was quieter now. Darkseid's signature is receding beyond the solar system. Tracking will continue. Good, I said, flipping a screwdriver between my fingers. Verb. Let's hope he doesn't get curious again anytime soon. The lab lights dimmed slightly, and the hum of the machines settled back into rhythm. I took a long breath and got back to work. Chapter 9, Repairing Metropolis. The mountain was still humming when I got the call. I'd just finished rewiring the lab's power grid after the stabilizer fried half my equipment. Rai was processing dimensional readings from the Apocalyptian retreat, and the smell of burnt circuits still hung in the air. Then the console buzzed with a secure League transmission. I didn't even bother pretending not to notice. Verb. All right, who's yelling at me first? Batman? Wonder Woman? Or the Martian one? Rai answered before the image even appeared. Incoming transmission, Batman. Of course, I said, rubbing the bridge of my nose. Verb. Patch him through before he gives himself an aneurysm. The screen lit up, and there he was, cowl, glare, the whole brooding package. Rick, he said, voice like gravel, we need your help. Wow, that's a first, I said, leaning back in my chair. Verb. Usually you start with a threat. This isn't a request, Batman said. Metropolis is unstable. When Darkseid's ship left orbit, it tore open a residual dimensional field. It's expanding across the city. The League can't contain it. So, I said, smirking, verb. Let me get this straight, you broke your city, and now you want me to fix it. He didn't blink. Can you? Of course I can, I said. Verb. The question's whether I want to. Rick, he said, tone even lower, if this field spreads, it could collapse reality around the city. Millions of lives are at risk. Yeah, I said, waving a hand. Verb. Don't guilt trip me, Batboy. I'll handle it. Give me coordinates. A set of numbers flashed across the screen. I'll send a transport, he said. Don't bother, I said, standing up. Verb. I've got better tech. The feed cut off. I turned to Rai. You hear that? Yes, Rai said. Metropolis field destabilization confirmed. Energy readings fluctuate across dimensional frequencies. Exactly, I said, grabbing my portal gun. Verb. Which means I get to spend my afternoon cleaning up someone else's mess. I adjusted the coordinates and fired. The portal opened in front of me, its green glow lighting the lab. The others must have heard because within seconds, Robin and the rest were at the door. "You're going to Metropolis?" Robin asked. "Yeah," I said, slipping a fresh battery into the gun. Verb. "Apparently your boss can't handle cosmic physics without me." Aqualad stepped forward. "We will accompany you." "Of course you will," I said. Verb. "Wouldn't want you to miss the field trip." Miss Martian floated closer, concern in her eyes. "Is it dangerous?" "Everything I do is dangerous," I said. Verb. "But yet, this one's probably up there." Kid Flash grinned nervously. "Sweet. Sounds fun." "Fun isn't the word I'd use," I said. Verb. "All right, everyone through the portal. Try not to trip over the end of reality." We stepped through, and the air changed immediately. The smell hit first burnt ozone, melted steel, and dust. The sky over Metropolis was dark grey, and the city looked worse than I expected. Whole blocks were collapsed, and chunks of debris floated several feet off the ground. Verb. "Great," I muttered. "City's phasing like bad television reception." The team spread out, scanning the area. Aqualad looked around. "This is far worse than I imagined." Robin crouched near a chunk of rubble that was half transparent. "These buildings are flickering." "Yeah," I said. Verb. "That's the dimensional field Batman mentioned. It's blending this plane with another. You touch the wrong spot, you'll lose a limb." Kid Flash stepped back quickly. "Noted." Miss Martian closed her eyes, her telepathic aura spreading faintly. "I can feel it. Like vibrations in the air." "Good," I said. Verb. "Means you can stay close and warn us before something explodes." The portal behind us closed with a soft hiss. I knelt beside a chunk of debris, pulled out a scanner, and started taking readings. The device buzzed erratically. "Yeah, figures," I said. Verb. "Pure Apocalyptian residue. Whatever Darkseid's ship used to breach space left a crack in dimensional fabric. And now it's bleeding through." Robin looked up from his tablet. "Can you close it?" "Eventually," I said. Verb. "First I've gotta stabilize the energy flow. Otherwise, you're looking at a chain reaction that'll turn half the planet into soup." Kid Flash frowned. "Soup doesn't sound great." "Yeah, no kidding," I said, snapping the scanner shut. Verb. "All right, I'll need an anchor point." Miss Martian tilted her head. "What does that mean?" "Means I need something solid to tie reality back together," I said, scanning the sky. Verb. "The city's field is fluctuating around one central spot. Whatever's at the core, that's where we start." Aqualad nodded. "Then we find it." "Exactly," I said. Verb. "Spread out. Stay within line of sight. If the air starts glowing red, run the other way." The team moved quickly through the ruined streets. Cars floated in midair before dropping back down without warning. Energy ripples distorted the light, bending shadows and buildings like reflections in water. I followed the readings, tracking the strongest pulse toward the center of the damage. It didn't take long to find it. A massive crater stretched across what used to be Centennial Park. In the middle, a glowing red orb pulsed with energy, faintly humming. Kid Flash skidded to a stop beside me. "That can't be good." "Nope," I said, staring at the sphere. Verb. "That's the core breach. It's sucking dimensional energy from Darkseid's jump drive. If it keeps expanding, it'll swallow this entire city." Robin stepped closer. How do we stop it? Carefully, I said, kneeling beside the edge of the crater. Verb. Rai, feed me the stabilizer frequency from the last Apocalyptian scan. Uploading now, Rai replied through my wrist communicator. Be advised, readings are unstable. Yet, I said. Verb. Everything's unstable until I fix it. I pulled out a circular device from my coat and set it on the ground. It unfolded like a mechanical flower, wires and panels snapping into place. A faint blue field spread outward, interacting with the red energy. Miss Martian hovered above us, watching the sphere flicker. It's reacting to your device. Good, I said, adjusting a dial. Verb. That means it's working. The light grew brighter. The air crackled with static. The ground shook under our feet. Aqualad steadied himself. Rick. I know, I said quickly. Verb. Don't move. Energy surged around the crater, the red and blue fields colliding. I gritted my teeth as sparks flew across the stabilizer's surface. The readings spiked. Come on, I muttered. Verb. Hold together. The device flickered once, twice, then steadied. The hum evened out. The red orb began to shrink slowly, the light dimming. Robin exhaled. You're doing it. Of course I am, I said. Verb. Told you, I don't fail. Then the stabilizer sparked again. The blue field collapsed, and a wave of red energy blasted outward. I threw up a hand, activating my personal shield generator. The impact still knocked everyone back. Kid Flash hit the ground with a grunt. Ow! What the heck was that? Feedback, I said, standing and shaking off dust. Verb. The energy's too dense for one stabilizer. I need more anchors. Aqualad frowned. How many? 3, I said, scanning the field again. Verb. 1 at each quadrant of the distortion. We sync them together, we close the crack. Robin nodded quickly. We'll help set them up. Yeah, sure, I said, handing him a stabilizer disc. Verb. Don't press the red button unless you want to vaporize half the block. Kid Flash took another. Got it. Red equals bad. Smart boy, I said. Verb. Miss Martian floated above, scouting the air. The field is pulsing faster. You don't have much time. Never do, I said, activating the main control unit. Verb. Move fast, kids. They spread out across the crater, placing the devices in position. I stayed at the center, monitoring the readings. The air shimmered around us, the crack pulsing brighter. Rai, I said. Status. All stabilizers linked, Rai replied. Energy output at 70%. Recommend activation. All right, I said. Verb. Everyone clear the crater. They moved fast. I pressed the switch. The 3 stabilizers lit up, beams of blue energy connecting them in a triangular pattern. The ground trembled again as the red energy reacted violently. The clash of power sent shockwaves through the city. Come on, I muttered. Verb. Don't blow up. The red orb contracted, shrinking rapidly. Sparks flew, the hum turned into a roar, and then silence. The light faded. The air steadied. The floating debris dropped to the ground with a heavy crash. The distortion was gone. Kid Flash let out a breath. Please tell me that means we're done. Yep, I said, straightening. Verb. Fields closed. Cities stable. Crisis averted. Aqualad placed a hand on my shoulder. You have done well. Yeah, I know, I said, smirking. Verb. Try not to sound too shocked. Robin checked his scanner. No residual energy. It's really gone. Of course it's gone, I said. Verb. What did you expect? Amateur hour. Miss Martian floated down beside us. You saved Metropolis. Again, I said, holstering my tools. Verb. I should start charging for this. A League Zeta beam flashed nearby, and Batman stepped out. His eyes swept the scene before landing on me. You stabilized it, he said. Obviously, I said. Verb. You're welcome. He glanced at the crater. The dimensional readings are gone. Yeah, I said, crossing my arms. Verb. I sealed the crack, patched your reality, and probably prevented another invasion. You owe me a drink. Batman ignored that. Good work. I raised an eyebrow. Verb. Did you just compliment me? It's an observation, he said flatly. Close enough, I said, grinning. Verb. Aqualad stepped forward. The city is safe now. Batman nodded. For now. We'll handle the cleanup. Yeah, have fun with that, I said, turning toward my portal. Verb. I'm heading back to the mountain before another god shows up. Kid Flash laughed weakly. I'm all for that plan. Robin looked at me. You really didn't even hesitate, hey? Just fixed it. Yeah, I said. Verb. That's what I do. I fix things. Then I go home and ignore the rest of the nonsense. Batman stepped closer. We'll be in touch. Can't wait, I said dryly, firing up the portal gun. The green oval appeared, humming softly. Verb. Try not to call me every time the universe breaks. He didn't respond, just turned back toward the crater. Typical. I motioned for the team to follow. All right, kiddies, field trip's over. Let's go before the League drags us into another disaster. We stepped through the portal, back into the lab. The air felt cleaner, quieter. Right, I said. Verb. Status report. Metropolis field closed. Dimensional stability restored. All readings nominal, Rai replied. Good, I said, collapsing into my chair. Verb. Now, let's make sure it stays that way. Miss Martian floated near the console. You really don't rest, do you? Rest is for people who run out of ideas, I said, yawning. Verb. I've got plenty. Kid Flash grinned. Yeah, and probably half of them are illegal. Technically, I said, smirking. Verb. But they work. Aqualad gave a small nod. You did well, Rick. Again. Of course I did, I said. Verb. Now go celebrate or something. I've got parts to replace. The team finally left the lab, laughter echoing faintly down the hall. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the still active monitors. Rai spoke softly. Apocalyptian residue remains faintly detectable in the upper atmosphere. Yeah, figures, I said quietly. Verb. He's not done yet. Should I begin long-term monitoring? Do it, I said. Verb. And next time he sneezes near this planet, I want to know before the League does. Understood, Rai replied. I grabbed my flask from the table and took a long sip. The glow from the screens lit the room, the hum of machinery filling the silence again. Another day, another crisis fixed. Chapter 10, Building a Wall Around a World. Batman came in the old-fashioned way. No Zeta Tube announcement, no warning through League comms. 1 second the lab was just me, Rai humming, and a dozen half-finished devices scattered across the tables. The next second, the internal sensors pinged, and heavy footsteps sounded in the hallway. Rai spoke through the ceiling calmly. Priority guest approaching. Identity, Batman. I tightened the clamp on the cylindrical unit in front of me and did not look up. Of course it's Batman. Verb. Who else stomps around like a funeral with boots? The door slid open. Batman filled the doorway, cape, cowl, and that constant stone-faced expression. Behind him, Aqualad and Robin stood at attention. The others hovered out in the hall, trying not to stare but staring anyway. I kept working, tightening another screw. If you're here to hang out, I'm all stocked out of cookies, Bats. You'll have to deal with disappointment. He stepped into the lab without reacting to the joke. We need to talk. We are talking, I said, finally setting the tool down and turning toward him. Verb. You just don't like the part where I talk back. What's the crisis this time? Another god? Space demon? Killer clown with a tank? Robin held up a holographic projector before Batman answered. We brought the data from the Apocalyptian residue. The hologram flicked on. Above the table, a three-dimensional field appeared, Earth, orbit, and scattered around it, tiny red motes, almost like a haze. They pulsed faintly, dancing along invisible lines. I squinted at it, then stepped closer. Rai, overlay my last stabilizer pulse. A blue wave appeared across the same space, intersecting sections of the red haze. Batman watched me carefully. You know what this is? Yeah, I said. Verb. Darkseid's fingerprints. Warp residue, boom tube anchors, trace fields from that big ugly ship. He left a mess. Aqualad looked at the hologram with a serious expression. The League's science teams believe the residue may allow the enemy to return. They're not wrong, I said. Verb. These aren't random traces. They're markers. Think of them as coordinates already written into space. Not enough to open a full invasion gate, but enough to make it easier next time. Robin frowned. So he can just come back whenever he wants? Not yet, I said, zooming in on one of the clusters. Verb. But if you leave this sitting here, the next time he throws a ship your way, it'll lock on like a magnet. Kid Flash edged into the lab and whistled softly. Okay, that's disturbing. Miss Martian floated in behind him, hovering near the ceiling. Can it be removed? Removed? Sure, I said, gesturing vaguely. Verb. You got a few decades? You could scrub it by hand. Or you let me do what I'm already doing. Batman's gaze sharpened. What are you doing? I smiled, just a little. Verb. Glad you asked. Come on, field trip, everybody stay behind the genius, don't touch anything, don't lick anything, don't blow anything up. I walked to the far side of the lab where I'd sectioned off a new area. Panels were pulled off the walls, cables rerouted, and a large circular frame mounted upright like an empty gate. Around it sat several smaller units, humming quietly. The core device on the central table was a dense, layered construct, metal rings interlocked around a glowing inner core. Robin's eyes widened a little. That wasn't here yesterday. Yet, because I built it last night, I said. Verb. While you were probably sleeping or worrying about patrol schedules. Batman moved closer to the central device. Explain. Gladly, I said, tapping the side of the core. Verb. This is the planet-scale version of what I used in Metropolis. A dimensional shield lattice. Once it's fully deployed, Earth gets a uniform, low-energy field that makes it about 1,000 times harder for anything outside to punch a hole through reality without setting off a very loud alarm. Aqualad studied the device, thoughtful. You intend to create a shield around the entire planet. Yep, I said. Verb. Thin layer. Not visible, not solid. It doesn't block light, doesn't fry satellite signals, doesn't cook birds in midair. It just makes boom tubes, invasion gates, god ships, and dimensional cracks go from easy to you'd better be really determined. Kid Flash's jaw dropped a little. So, like a force field. More like a filter, I said. Verb. It doesn't stop normal space travel. If you fly a ship here, you're fine. Try to rip a hole in space-time, you get slapped. Batman stared at the core in silence for several long seconds. You've already started building it. Of course I have, I said. Verb. I'm not waiting for a committee vote. Robin's tone was cautious but curious. How are you planning to deploy it? I tapped the hologram control. A new projection appeared above the table, Earth, surrounded by a grid of tiny points. Drones, I said. Verb. My network's already out there mapping everything. I mount anchor nodes on key orbital paths, sync them with Rye, and tie the whole thing into a dimensional stabilizer core. Miss Martian tilted her head. Would it affect psychic communication? No, I said bluntly. Verb. I calibrated it outside your wavelength. It won't touch telepathy, magic, regular physics, or your weekly sitcom broadcasts. It only reacts to the kind of energy Darkseid likes to use. Batman's voice was flat. You intend to put this online without League approval? I intend to keep this rock from getting turned into a smoking crater, I said. Verb. You want to stamp paperwork on it after, go ahead. He stepped closer to the core, examining the design without touching it. This much power, controlled from a single central system, is a risk. I snorted. Everything's a risk. Verb. Breathing is a risk. You're standing on a ball of molten rock covered by a thin crust and pretending you're safe. Robin glanced at Batman, then back at me. Can someone else operate it? Or is it linked only to you? I smirked. Verb. That's the part everyone always gets nervous about. Relax. Rye handles the day-to-day. The system operates autonomously once it's active. I just build the thing and set the rules. Aqualad frowned slightly. What happens if you are unavailable? I built in fallback protocols, I said. Verb. If I disappear, the system keeps running. If someone tries to override it without my clearance, it locks up and goes into passive mode. Worst case scenario? You go back to the way things are right now. Unprotected. Miss Martian floated a little lower, watching the core with some unease. I can feel something from it. Not dangerous, but different. Dimensional hum, I said. Verb. It's tuned to the same frequencies that residue up there is parked on. I pointed my thumb at the ceiling. This thing's basically a giant eraser and tripwire in one. Kid Flash scratched his head. So why's the League worried? Batman answered before I could. Because any system that surrounds the planet can be turned against it. I sucked my teeth. Verb. Here we go. He turned to me fully. If this shield misfires, shuts down, or overloads, it could affect the atmosphere, disrupt satellites, block Zeta transmissions, or trap the League off-world. Wrong, wrong, partly wrong, and only if you're really unlucky, I said. Verb. I accounted for those. It's not a dome, it's a thin lattice tuned to a very specific band. I'm not building a prison. I'm building armor. You call it armor, Batman said. But you hold the keys. I hold the off switch, I said. Verb. Big difference. The room went quiet for a moment. Even Rye held back. Robin spoke carefully. Is there a way to build in shared access? Some kind of backup control. I rolled my eyes and rubbed my forehead, feeling a little twitch of annoyance and a little amusement. Verb. You people and your trust issues. I looked at Batman. All right. You want oversight? You're getting technical. I can give the League a monitored console. Limited access. Read-only for most functions. Hard-coded emergency shutdown protocol keyed to, say, 4 League members acting together. Batman watched me closely. Which 4? Any you decide, I said. Verb. You make the political choices. I make sure nobody can fake the signal. But understand this: if you let the chain of command get sloppy and someone abuses that, it's on you, not me. He considered that. He didn't show emotion, but I could tell he liked having that option. I'll need to see full schematics. No, you want to see full schematics, I corrected him. Verb. What you need is a limited technical overview and an interface. I'm not handing out my blueprints like party favors. I know how secret councils go. Kid Flash muttered under his breath. He's got a point. Batman shot him a brief look. The kid raised his hands. Hey, just saying. Rai broke in, voice even. Dimensional residue in orbit remains stable but unchanged. However, traces show a slight alignment toward Apocalyptian warp signatures. In English, I said, burp. The mess up there is still tuned to Darkseid's tech. You leave it alone, it'll be useful to him later. You wrap it in my shield, it becomes a dead zone. That's the choice, Cape Man. Batman's jaw tightened slightly. How soon can it be ready? I turned back to the core and checked a few dials. First stage deployment? I can have a partial lattice up in orbit for a test run by the end of the day. Verb. Full coverage, every quadrant accounted for, drones in position, little longer. Robin's eyes lit with interest he tried to hide. You already have drones up there, don't you? Yeah, I said. Verb. They're the backbone of the network. I just haven't told them to start building the wall yet. Aqualad looked between us. Perhaps we should test it locally before committing the entire planet. That was the plan, I said. Verb. I'm reckless, not stupid. We'll run a regional shield segment over a small patch of atmosphere, test how it responds to basic warp attempts, make sure no one gets cooked. Batman nodded once. Where? I smiled. Right above us, of course. Kid Flash paled a little. Wait, what? I tapped the console. A new projection appeared, showing a ring above the east coast, centered almost exactly over Happy Harbor and the mountain. If it fails, I said, burp. I'm the first one who gets fried. That enough reassurance for you? Miss Martian looked uneasy. Will it hurt? No, I said calmly. Verb. I'm not letting my own brain get scrambled. Rai, prep test segment deployment. Use drone cluster Theta 7. Confirmed, Rai replied. Aligning drones to target coordinates. The holographic globe lit up with a ring of blue points forming over our position. In orbit, tiny metal spheres responded to the call. Batman folded his arms. We'll monitor from here. Yeah, I figured, I said. Verb. Kid, don't run during this. If you collide with a gravity fluctuation you'll redecorate my walls. He made a face. Noted. I keyed in the activation sequence. Rai, start at 3% output. No sudden jolts. Activating now, Rai said. Up in orbit, the drones fired small, controlled pulses. On the hologram, a faint, translucent band formed around part of the Earth's atmosphere. It flickered once, then steadied. The lab lights dimmed briefly, then returned to normal. Miss Martian blinked and glanced around. "I don't feel any different." "You're not supposed to," I said. Verb. "That means it's working." Robin checked his tablet. No change in gravity, no M spike, no COMM interference. Batman spoke into his leak COMM. "Watchtower, report." A faint reply answered over the open channel. "All satellite readings nominal. No disruption detected." "See," I said. Verb. "Clean installation. And now for the fun part." I turned back to the console. "Right, simulate a boom tube ping inside the test sector. Low level, just enough to trigger the mesh." "Simulating now," Rai said. The hologram flashed red for a second. A targeted line appeared from outside the shield, trying to punch through the band. As soon as it touched, the blue lattice brightened and redirected the energy outward, dispersing it across the curve. Robin's eyes widened. "It bounced." "Redirected," I corrected. Verb. "The lattice doesn't absorb the hit. It spreads it thin, like smearing paint until there's nothing left that can hold shape." Batman's tone stayed even. "Could it redirect a full-scale invasion gate? At high enough output?" "Yeah," I said. Verb. "You crank the power, anything that tries to open a portal into that field gets kicked sideways. Maybe even somewhere they don't like." Kid Flash relaxed a little. "Okay, I'm kind of liking this thing now." Aqualad nodded slowly. "This could protect the planet from more than apocalypse." "Yeah," I said. Verb. "It'll make life harder for every dimension-hopping idiot with a grudge. Which is why I'm not advertising it." Miss Martian floated nearer to the projection, watching the lattice ripple as another simulated hit bounced off. "It's working very smoothly." "For a first run, yeah," I said. Verb. "I'll probably adjust the field density, maybe widen the band in the upper atmosphere. But the basic structure's solid." Batman studied the data with that same intense look. "What if someone on Earth tries to open a portal from inside to outside?" "It'll let it through," I said. Verb. "Shield's one-way selective. Outbound dimensional travel is safe unless it matches a blocked signature. So your magic crowd, Zeta beams, lantern constructs, they'll be fine." Robin frowned. "And what's blocked?" I looked at Batman, not Robin. "Apocalyptian signatures. Anything resembling boom tube energy or Darkseid's warp field. Anything tagged as hostile by the system. And anything you people asked me to blacklist." Kid Flash raised his hand halfway. "Can we blacklist clown-shaped portals?" "Maybe later," I said. Verb. Batman looked at the globe one last time. "I'll take this to the League. We'll discuss it. But from what I've seen," he paused, then added, "we may not have a better option." "That's the spirit," I said. Verb. Fear-driven practicality. My favorite kind. He turned away from the display and faced me fully again. "We'll need that limited control access you mentioned." "I'll build you a console," I said. Verb. Locked, shielded, tamper-proof. You can park it on the watchtower, stick a few paranoid sorcerers around it, I don't care. Robin looked mildly offended. "We're not that paranoid." "You are," I said. Verb. "But it's useful, so keep it." Batman headed for the door, then stopped. "Rick." "Yeah," I said. He looked back over his shoulder. "When it's fully active, I want to know the moment it detects anything apocalyptian." "You will," I said. Verb. Right, set that as a priority alert. League gets the ping same time I do. Logged, Rai replied. Batman left the lab without another word. Robin followed, glancing back at the core one last time. Kid Flash lingered a second longer. This shield thing, he said, scratching his cheek. Kinda freaky. But also kinda comforting. That's how you know it's good tech, I said. Verb. If it doesn't make you a little nervous, it's not powerful enough. He laughed weakly. That doesn't make me feel better, but okay. Then he zipped off. The door slid shut. It was just me, the hum of machines, and the faint glow of the forming planetary lattice on the hologram. Miss Martian stayed behind, hovering quietly near the ceiling. I glanced up at her. You're still here, I said. Verb. Usually you float off with Boy Scout squad. She descended a little, eyes on the core more than on me. I just wanted to ask, this shield. Will it make things quieter? In my head. I blinked once. What do you mean? She hesitated, then answered softly. Sometimes, especially when there are big events, I feel echoes. From space. From other minds far away. When Darkseid came, it was loud, even if I couldn't hear words. I scratched my cheek, thinking on that for a moment. A small weight sat in my chest, not enough to bother me, but enough to register. If I tune it right, I said, Burp. It might dampen some of that. The external noise, anyway. Not your friends yelling next to you. But the far-off stuff? Yet. It could calm that down. She smiled a little, relieved. Then I think it's a good idea. Good, I said. Verb. At least someone around here appreciates free upgrades. She floated toward the door. Thank you, Rick. I waved her off. Yet. Verb. Go do hero things. I'll keep the roof from caving in. She left. The lab felt quieter again. Rai spoke up. Test lattice remains stable. No disruptions currently detected. Good, I said. Verb. Start expanding it very slowly. Keep it under 5% coverage until we clear full deployment with the capes. Understood, Rai said. Would you like to begin constructing the League control console? Yeah, I said, grabbing a toolkit and walking over to an empty table. Verb. Let's build them a shiny panic button. I started sketching out the console layout on a tablet, secure crystal casing, biometric locks, multi-party key protocol, encrypted uplink straight to the shield core. All the things that would make them feel safe, even if I knew the system would ultimately still respond to my design. As I worked, the holographic Earth slowly gained a thin, faint band across a wider stretch of its surface. Barely visible, almost nothing. But it was there. And it was mine. Chapter 11, Glitches, Gods, and a Knock on the Wall. The planetary lattice sat at 9% coverage when everything shook. Not the ground, not the mountain. The systems. I was in the lab, finishing the casing on Batman's shiny new console, when Rai's tone shifted from calm to alert in a single word. Rick. Zeta traffic error. I tightened the last bolt, not rushing. Error how? Verb. Give me specifics, not drama. Watchtower Zeta network experienced a 3.2-second communication distortion during the latest sync with the lattice, Rai said. Routing returned to normal without manual intervention. That got my attention. I put the tool down and walked to the main display. Show me. The hologram shifted. A replay of the last 30 seconds in orbit played in neat layers: drone positions, lattice output, watchtower transmission paths. Everything looked normal until a thin spike of energy clipped the grid and brushed the same band the Zeta signals used. The signals stuttered, twisted, then straightened. Verb. Hey, I said quietly. That's not ideal. Before I could drill into the details, the console chirped with an incoming priority channel. Source, Watchtower, Rai said. Batman requesting direct contact. Of course he is, I muttered. I flicked the switch. All right, put Bat-Dad on. Batman appeared on the main screen, jaw set a little tighter than usual. The background looked like the Watchtower control deck glow, consoles, all that League decor. Rick, he said. We just had a Zeta glitch. Yeah, I saw it, I said. Verb. 3 seconds, limited distortion, automatic correction. Nobody got scrambled. Relax. That's 3 seconds too many, he replied. We rely on those systems. I spread my hands slightly. You asked for a global dimensional shield. Verb. You don't get that without a few growing pains. He didn't look amused. No surprise. Explain. I pulled up the replay on my end, glancing at it while I talked. Lattice output kissed the edge of your zeta frequency band. When the drone synced, the field flexed and tickled your transit path. System adjusted. Nobody died. Issue logged. So it can interfere, he said. Under certain conditions, yeah, I said. Verb. Which is why I test this stuff before going full coverage. You're seeing exactly why you talk to me instead of some intern with a soldering iron. He was quiet for a few seconds, processing. I need a guarantee this will not compromise League transportation. You're not getting a guarantee, I said bluntly. Verb. You're getting active correction. I pointed at the screen. I patch the overlap, shift the shield's harmonics a little, and build in a buffer around zeta bands. You'll be safe. But I'm not pretending there's zero interaction when we're literally layering a new grid over your planet. Robin moved into frame behind him, tablet in hand. Batman tilted his head slightly. Robin. Robin nodded, eyes flicking over the data. The interference pattern matches the outer edge of the lattice frequency, Batman. He can adjust it. He looked at me. Right. I smirked. Verb. Of course I can. Give me 10 minutes in a quiet room. Batman didn't look away from the screen. Until we're sure the problem's resolved, you don't expand the lattice past 10%. Yeah, I said. Verb. Fine. 10% leash. I can work with that. You done yelling? This isn't yelling, he said. This is coordination. Call it what you want, I said, turning back toward my console. Verb. I'll fix your toy. Try not to teleport halfway into a wall while I do it. The feed cut without another word. Classic. I scratched the back of my head, annoyed but also a little interested. It was technically my fault, and I did not like the idea of my lattice brushing someone else's signal by accident. Right, I said, fingers already moving over controls, pull up full band spectrum for zeta traffic. I want a clean buffer around all active transit channels. Displaying, Rai said. A new projection appeared, thin ribbons representing zeta frequencies curling around the Earth in neat arcs. I overlaid the lattice band and saw the problem immediately. Verb. There it is, I muttered. Throat of the field's too wide around low orbit. We'll narrow it, push it up 10 kilometers and cut the overlap. As I worked, I felt a small, stubborn satisfaction. This was the kind of challenge that was actually worth my time. Big systems, tiny adjustments. 20 minutes passed in a blur of tuning, rebalancing, and resimulating. When I finished, the lattice curve sat comfortably outside all zeta bands like two magnets turned the right way. Rai, I said, run a simulated sync again. Full scale, including watchtower. The AI responded smoothly. Running, no interference recorded. All Zeta channels remain clear. I smiled, relaxed. Good. Verb. Ping the bat and send him the new model before he has a paranoia stroke. Transmitting now, Rai replied. The lab settled into its usual quiet after that. I was just about to return to building the watchtower console when Rai spoke again. This time, the tone was sharper. Rick. Lattice contact detected. I turned back to the display instantly. Define contact. Show me. The hologram zoomed. At the edge of the 9% coverage arc, one tiny point flickered red. Every other section of the lattice glowed a steady blue. That one was different. Rai's voice was calm and clear. Object approaching outer band. Source, extrasolar. Energy signature mismatch with known human or league technology. I stared for 2 seconds. Verb. Magnify it. The projection zoomed again. The object was barely visible, a speck against the curve. But my instruments didn't care about size. Give me a readout, I said. Composition, energy, everything. Numbers scrolled. Rai summarized them in one line. High-order warp signature. Energy pattern consistent with Apocalyptian probe technology. I felt my jaw tighten just a little. Not fear, more annoyance. Of course it is, I said quietly. Darksaid's poking my shield. The red point touched the blue curve. It flared immediately, but not bright. The lattice responded exactly how I meant it to. The band thickened, rippled, and smeared the incoming signal outward. Instead of punching through, the probe's warp energy stretched thin and dissipated across the arc. On another display, a tiny icon representing the probe jerked, spun, and was flung sideways off the grid. Burp, I said, watching it divert. How's that trajectory look, Rai? Probe deflected at a 39-degree angle, Rai answered. Warp pattern disrupted. Jump recalculation required. It will not reach Earth. Good. I stepped closer, studying the afterimage. Archive that interaction. I want before and after snapshots of that probe. And record the exact rhythm of the touch. This wasn't random. He was testing it. Initiating archive, Rai said. Footsteps approached in the hallway. The door opened, and Robin slipped into the lab, holding his tablet. You pinged the watchtower again, he said. Batman said you went quiet after sending the recalibration. Everything okay? Yeah, I said. Verb. Just caught a bug on the fence. He blinked. What kind of bug? Apocalyptian kind, I said, pointing at the display. Little probe tried to tap the lattice. It got bounced. Robin's shoulders tensed. He tested it. Yeah, I said. Verb. If I build a wall, you can bet the first thing a guy like that does is throw something at it. Good news is, it worked. Bad news is, now he knows it's there. Robin came closer, eyes scanning the logs. Can you tell where the probe came from? Not precisely, I said. Verb. But I've got its warp vector. Rai, isolate backward path with error range. The map shifted again. A thin line traced outward from Earth into deeper space, bending as it followed residual warp distortion. At the end, there was nothing. Just a wide cone of uncertainty. Robin let out a slow breath. Too far. For now, I said. Verb. But every test he makes, we'll see it. And every one gives me more data. I looked at him. You tell Batman the shield's already doing its job. Robin nodded slowly. He'll want all the readings. He can have the sanitized version, I said. Verb. Rai will package it. Robin hesitated near the table. There's something else. I picked up a screwdriver. Of course there is. Verb. Go on. The League had a debrief, he said. Wonder Woman raised a concern. Zatara agreed with her. Dr. Fate didn't disagree. About what? I asked, even though I already had a suspicion. The shield, Robin said. Magic. Divine travel. Themyscira. The Lords of Order. All of that. They want to know if your shield will block that too. Or interfere with it. Or make enemies out of those kinds of beings. I sighed. Verb. Of course the magic crowd wants in on this. He gave a small shrug. Wonder Woman requested a test. Batman wants you on the watchtower. I snorted, but I felt a flicker of interest. Fine, I said. Verb. If the gods want to complain about my wiring, they can do it to my face. I holstered my tools, grabbed the portal gun, then paused. Actually, no. We'll be civilized for once. Rai, open a channel to the Watchtower Zeta hub. I'll use their toy. Channel ready, Rai said. I walked toward the door. Robin fell into step beside me. We took the corridor to the Zeta platform. The rest of the team was already there. Aqualad straight-backed, Miss Martian curious, Kid Flash fidgeting, Superboy silent. Aqualad nodded. Batman called. He said you were requested. Yeah, I noticed, I said. Verb. Try not to touch anything up there. The Zeta tube activated. Recognized, Rick Sanchez. B06, the system said in that familiar flat tone. Light flared. A second later, we were standing on the watchtower. The air felt cleaner up here, like a hospital and a starship had a kid. Screens were everywhere. Heroes moved between stations. I ignored most of it and focused on the people waiting near the central console. Batman. Wonder Woman in her armor. Zatara in his suit and cloak. And Dr. Fate, golden helm and all, standing very still. I stepped forward, hands in my coat pockets. Well, this looks like a serious crowd. Verb. You could have just sent an email. Wonder Woman's gaze was steady. Your shield may affect more than you realize, Rick. Yeah, that's what we're here to find out, I said. Verb. So let's test it instead of guessing. Batman gestured toward a side station. We installed the console you sent. I glanced at it. My build, clean lines, tight casing, multiple locks. They'd set it into a reinforced recess like it was a bomb. I was almost flattered. I walked over and placed my hand on the side. The console lit up, Rai's symbol appearing in a modest corner. Rai, tie console to main lattice feed, I said. Verb. Read-only mode for everything but the functions I specify. Confirmed, Rai replied through the unit. Zatara stepped closer, arms folded. Batman tells us this shield is tuned to certain dimensional energies. But magic is a kind of energy also. We must see if there is overlap. Dr. Fate's helm turned slightly, focusing on me. His voice came from nowhere and everywhere, steady and cold. The balance of order must not be altered without understanding. Yet, I said. Verb. Relax, Goldhead. I'm not trying to grab your job. We'll run controlled tests. Wonder Woman's tone carried a hint of urgency, but not anger. Themyscira's protection involves divine wards. If your shield interferes with them, it could be seen as an act of aggression. Noted, I said. I flicked through a few console menus. Verb. All right, here's how this is going to work. I'll raise lattice output over a tiny slice of orbit smaller than last time, no zeta overlap. Zatara tests a spell through it. Fate tests whatever cosmic door he wants. We watch what happens. Batman nodded. Agreed. I keyed in the commands. Rai, bring Sector E12 up to 15% shield density, I said. Verb. Tight band, 10 kilometers tall, no expansion without my say. Activating, Rai replied. On the nearby screen, a small piece of the globe lit with a faint ring. The readings stayed clean. No system flickers this time. I turned to Zatara. You first, Hat Man. He gave me a dry look but stepped toward a clear area of the floor. He raised his hands, voice steady. Ex Magica, Aperi Portum. A soft golden circle appeared in front of him, small and contained. The monitors tracked its signature as he attuned it to pass through the shielded sector. Rai spoke calmly. Magical aperture detected. Frequency does not intersect restricted bands. Lattice response, minimal. On the display, the portal passed through the shield ring without resistance. No ripple. No flare. Zatara closed it with a gesture. No interference. Good, I said. Verb. That's one box checked. Gold helmet, your turn. Dr. Fate stepped forward. His presence actually made the air feel heavier, but I ignored it. He raised a hand. A vertical oval of yellow light formed, taller than the first. A simple passage, tuned to the Tower of Fate, he said. The portal extended outward, touching the shielded zone in orbit. Rai chimed. Energy contact. Source, ordered mystical framework. No apocalyptian traits. Lattice adjusting path. The hologram showed the shield bending slightly, creating a gap in its density around the portal's exact path, then flowing back after it passed. Dr. Fate stepped through halfway, then stepped back. The portal vanished. There was a slight resistance, he said. But not enough to hinder passage. The shield acknowledged my path, then yielded. I smiled faintly. Yeah, that was on purpose. Verb. The lattice filters by signature. Recognizes your flavor of hocus pocus as non-hostile and lets you slide through. Wonder Woman relaxed a little. So it will not bar divine passage. Depends on the divine, I said. Verb. But the code is built to react to warp aggression, not to things that knock politely. Batman looked at the console. We'll need ongoing monitoring to ensure that remains true. You're getting it, I said. Verb. The console stays tied to Rai's reporting. You see what I see, just with fewer buttons. Zatara glanced at Dr. Fate. It appears his shield respects the existing hierarchies. Dr. Fate's helm tilted. For now. I shrugged. You wanted proof it wouldn't slam a door in your face. You got it. Verb. If any of your god friends decide to attack the planet with dimensional cannons, I'm not losing sleep over them stubbing their toes on my field. Wonder Woman gave me a sharp look at that, but didn't argue. You have answered our concern for now. I appreciate that you agreed to test it. Yeah, well, I said, looking away. Verb. I don't like breaking good systems by accident. Magic or not. Batman moved closer to the console, studying its interface. We're accepting Stage 1 deployment under conditions. You keep it under 25% coverage until we've run multiple tests. If we detect any unexplained interference zeta, magical, or otherwise you freeze expansion. Fine, I said. Verb. 25 ceiling. I work under restrictions all the time. I just ignore the stupid ones. He nodded once. This isn't one of those. No, I admitted, Verb. It's not. The group broke apart slightly. Zatara and Fate drifted toward another station, already talking in low voices. Wonder Woman gave me a respectful nod before walking back toward the League Council area.